Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. We're your hosts Jake
and Matt.
You know what time it is!
I can't tell you guys enough how much you've been my internal monologue when thinking about football for the last year.
Yes, amazing! We get to record while drinking some wine. Jake and I will have a very special soft spot for Salernitana.
We love him.
We love him. Stop zooming in on Allegri's face, bro. You're gonna make
How
me
are you
break.
exposing me?
Because you're gonna make me break, man.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Serie A Spotlight. This is episode 175 and we're your hosts Jake
And Matt.
here to run you through all the action of Matchday 38 in Serie A, the finale.
And as you guys can see from the kits that we're wearing, Napoli are officially the champions of the Scudetto 2024-2025. Massive round of applause to Napoli.
Bravo!
They win the league by 1 point after beating Cagliari 2-0, which meant that whatever Inter did, it would not have been enough for them. They did get past Como 2-0 away from home. However, in other news, Juve did get Champions League and their victory did send Venezia down to Serie B, beating them in Venice with the score of 3-2 after a 73rd minute Manuel Locatelli penalty. It was actually Venezia that took the lead in the second minute of the game, which made things really, really exciting. Roma get Europa League. They didn't do enough to get Champions League after Juve's victory. They did beat Torino 2-0, which ended Torino's run with Vanoli, who has been, well, apparently is currently being sacked. What's going to come of Vanoli, we will be discussing once we start discussing that fixture. Roma get Conference League for the fourth time in a row. They've become residents of the Conference League. They beat Udinese 3-2 away from home in a very, very controversial match. Very controversial because of Bijol's second yellow, which couldn't be checked because it's a yellow and not a red. Just stupid stuff. And Palladino has resigned. No official statement yet by the club because they are trying to convince him to stay. But Palladino has clearly been unhappy for the past couple of months with how the owners have been treating him. And now it does look like he's going to be moving on. Lazio have missed out on European football altogether, as I predicted in our predictions episode. They did much better than I thought, though. And in the process, Parma survived and they will be in Serie A next season. As well, Lecce, who beat Lazio away from home with the score of 1-0, despite having a red card for the majority of the game. And Parma got past Atalanta with the score of 3-2. Empoli are the other team that have been relegated after losing to Verona 2-1. The Parma win did make things a little bit insignificant. Whatever results these teams got, it wouldn't have been enough essentially. Even Lecce's victory meant that whatever these guys did, they would have gotten relegated nonetheless. But Verona did beat Empoli anyway. Actually, if Empoli would have won this game, and Parma would have lost that game, then it would have gone to a relegation playout, which would have been very... if Lecce would have lost the game, and if Empoli would have won the game, then it would have gone to the playout. Bologna 1, Genoa 3 is another game that we'll be discussing, particularly because of the full debut of Torino. Fantastic display, and a doppietta for the 18-year-old homegrown kid. And Milan 2, Monza 0 wins the title of the most insignificant match of the final match day.
Agreed. We'll be talking about the protests potentially more than the football on the pitch. Brother, before we get going, where is my €5, bro?
Yeah, I have the request on Revolut for those of you that missed it. Fill them in.
If you want, bro, I got you this sack. You can fill it with coins for me and hand it to me in the next episode.
For those of you that are still listening on Spotify, I just tossed it. I'm sending Jake
He's crazy.
virtual money right now because
to
I'm
the
not a
phone
guy.
that's recording the video. Hopefully it doesn't interrupt.
I'll do it after this. It would have been symbolic, I felt. But fuck it. Yes, Jake, congratulations. Shake of hands. A deal is a deal.
I believed in Lecce. That was my only reason for taking that bet on.
I've been predicting Lecce to get relegated, I think, for the past 2 seasons.
They have a certain spirit, bro. And I do believe that for these small teams, the supporters are the 12th man, you know? And Cagliari and Lecce are the exhibit A over there. When they survive, it's their fans, the atmosphere, man, that pushes them over the edge, that gives them that extra bit of oomph they need.
Oh, man, and we're going to be talking all about it because what they did against Lazio who are playing for everything, for European football, for Conference League, Europa League, for something.
Yeah.
Lecce with one man down, what they did over there was spectacular. That's where the miracle was. We thought it might be a miracle in Venice towards the end, but the miracle was in the south of fucking Italy.
Exactly.
And we're always pleased when that is the case. Napoli champions from the south of Italy. Lecce still in Serie A.
Yes.
You know?
And that's why our cover photo for this episode is Gianpaolo and Conte with a bottle of wine that says, to Lazio, love the South. Right? Exactly. They owe Lazio a lot, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Lazio have done many a favour. Our goal of the week. Well, what is your goal of the week? I think it's a unanimous one over here. Let me just start off by saying that Orsolini scored one of the goals of the season in this game without a doubt.
Yeah.
He controlled the ball on his shoulder by flicking it up, catching it on the volley with his left foot in off the crossbar.
It was a savage goal. Savage.
But how can you not give it to the bicycle kick of Scott McTominay,
Exactly.
which essentially won Napoli the league title.
Exactly.
In the Maradona was just waiting to explode, and it exploded, bro. It exploded so fucking hard to that goal. And it's once again McTominay, the MVP of the season, the guy that was always there for Napoli this season. Literally one of the most consistent figures and one of the most heroic figures in recent history of teams winning the league, because it was so close, and he was the guy consistently at the end in the final 10 matches, scoring, assisting, scoring. Just, he deserves it. McTominay completely deserves it, but we won't be talking about that right away. A shout out to our media partners, of course, Benevo Bid. Go check out their website. It's in the link in our bio. You can get autographed items from top players, including match-issued kits. And they do have a new selection right now. Autographed kits by Maicon and Zanetti, two legends of the 2009-2010 season when Inter won the treble in celebration of Inter's Champions League final, which is coming up this Saturday. So hit the link in our description to get your bids in. Most of the proceeds go to charity, a local charity called Puttino Cares. Shout out Benefobid.
Amazing. Two beautiful kits from two players who go down in football history as greats, all-timers. You know, Zanetti, of course, we don't need to say anything about him, but Maicon as well. I would say he is beyond cult hero status.
Zanetti is Mr. Inter.
Yeah.
No? Zanetti is what, in a way, what Maldini is to Milan.
Yeah.
So well respected, so loved, so loyal. Maicon did make him shift position from right back to
midfield.
Defensive midfielder.
Exactly.
And I think that was a good thing, because I do think that Zanetti played a lot of his best football as a defensive midfielder and as a central midfielder. The engine that he had over there was really, really good. And Maicon just brought something different, right? A legendary right back, one of the many legendary Brazilian wingbacks. If you guys are new here, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. DM us if you want to chat. We're very responsive. We do weekly episodes covering every single match, every single team, every single week. And don't worry, we'll still keep up the weekly episodes as the summer season is fast approaching. Well, it's here.
Yes.
We'll be doing tops and flops episodes. We'll be doing the Serie B breakdown episodes. We'll be looking ahead at the next season. We'll even be having a look at the Club World Cup, and a lot of exciting things are coming to this podcast. We also have Tactics Imperium episodes by a tactical analyst named John Leah, which we occasionally do as well. And if you really love us and you want to support us, become a patron. It's $3.99 a month, and you can win a free kit if you win our fantasy league. And what a segue that is to our champion, Joey D. You are a champion in every sense of the word. You
Now
deserve
we know
it.
what the D stands for, huh?
Joey Dick.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
Exactly.
Who knows?
So he put up a poll today. The patrons get to choose what kit he gets. What a legend, what a guy.
That's why I said he's a champion in every sense of the word. Changing his team name always to something hilarious, funnier than the week before, and just dominant display. I know there was a Pieter had a strong start, but once Joey D went to the top, he stayed.
He stayed, bro.
Top,
he
man.
stayed. Look at me, I'm the champion now. Is
Oh,
his name.
yes,
Incredible
bro.
Captain
Joey,
Phillips.
I'm
reference.
so happy that we're gonna be shipping you a kit, brother.
Yes, his options were Como, Nico Paz,
So Como,
Orsolini,
Nico Paz,
Bologna,
Orsolini, Bologna,
Sassuolo, Berardi.
Sassuolo, and there was another one.
Another one, I forgot who it was.
Well, definitely not a. Was it Napoli? No, it wasn't.
Oh, I can't remember.
I can't remember either. I advised him to get the Como Nico Paz. I think that is
I
very
just went for
iconic.
the Berardi one. He's a cult hero. Love him.
So is Orsolini, right? Well, you could go for anyone. He even considered. He said, "Is it too early to get a Venturino?"
That would be an investment, huh?
Yeah, and
From
that's
the
a
past.
really cool kit as well. So Joey D, massive congratulations! You are in the Hall of Fame of Serie A Spotlights Fantasy League. If you guys join now, you could do your research on the Fantasy League. You could get to know your opponents. So do check us out. The link is in our description. Become a patron, help us grow, support us, and you'll also be added to the latest group chat in Serie A history, where we meet some beautiful people. And yeah, we have bonded very closely with these people, and they have become some of our closest of friends.
Absolutely. Yes, bro. Shall we delve into the action?
Let's delve into the action. Yes, this is the game that won Napoli the league. Napoli 2, Cagliari 0. It was never going to be a straightforward one, even though Cagliari had just confirmed survival the week before, but they did have Caprile, Gaetano, Pavoletti, Luvumbo and Felici all injured. For Napoli, it wasn't going to be easy because they were missing Conte on the touchline, that energy that is so needed in a match like this. No Lobotka and a makeshift centre-back in Oliveira, so it was going to be a tough encounter. But Napoli started and they had an array of chances in the first half, and it constantly, like I said earlier, it constantly felt like the Maradona was ready to explode. Shades of Napoli 2 seasons ago, when there was essentially an earthquake when they scored, even though they didn't win the league on that particular day.
Because Boulaye Dia ruined the party.
Exactly.
That was against Salernitana in a derby.
Exactly, but there was no Boulaye Dia here. It was the 41st minute where it finally erupted thanks to a Scott McTominay bicycle kick. When you have a player like that, you know that a goal can take place. You know, all you need to do is find Scott McTominay somewhere around the area. That acrobatic bicycle kick, it's not like he was in the air, bro.
Yep.
He leapt in the air. It's not just like he leant back and one of these lazy bicycle kicks or just went sideways.
It was a ferocious goal. He really wanted it, man. And it was clear to see. And Napoli, this game, had something that they lacked in the previous 2 games. It was almost like they recognized that they got lucky and they got away with one, not winning in the last game.
Yep.
And the feeling, by the way, is felt throughout the whole stadium. As you can see, the announcer played the Pedro song at the end, and you hear everyone singing Pedro, 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 Pedro.
Insane, man.
It's amazing, of course, because Pedro scored both goals against Inter to keep them level and to keep Napoli ahead. But it's almost like Napoli understood that we have to win this. We're not going to get another chance.
Exactly.
We got away with one last week. We can't let this one slip.
Absolutely. And their biggest players, McTominay and Lukaku, rose to the occasion. Particularly, you said that McTominay had a ferocious goal. Lukaku's goal was just as ferocious. As shades of Lukaku when he was at Inter and he won the league with Conte.
Absolutely.
Just powerful, fast, just dragging the ball forward. It's almost like a Victor Osimhen goal I saw. He collected the ball. When does Lukaku collect the ball on the halfway line and drag the ball forward like that? And out muscle everyone and
usually when he's against
Milan.
Romagnoli, Pavlovic. but yeah.
Absolutely.
That was again, bro, a ferocious goal. Again, it has to be said. He did everything all on his own, and he displayed everything: technique, strength, speed, intelligence. it's a very tough thing to do. You need to know exactly where to go while not letting your opponent in on that idea.
Exactly, and finish.
Yeah.
After all that,
Yeah.
you have to put the ball in the back of the net, which is, never an easy task, especially with Sherry in goal.
And you've got Yerry Mina pinching at your nipples. It's a disaster. It's really difficult.
Well, but yeah, he did Yeremina in that action. Yeah, absolutely. Yeremina, who's a big, strong physical presence, who's had a fantastic season, Yeremina, it has to be said. But Lukaku made him look like a schoolboy over there, to say the least. So those were the two eruptions. The third eruption was in the 90th minute as the final whistle blew, and Napoli were crowned champions of Italy for the second time in 3 years. 2023, champions of Italy. 2024, 10th place. 2025, champions of Italy. Fantastic achievement for Napoli, who have now shown us that at this point in time, right now, Napoli are the most dominant team that there is in Italy.
Yeah, as it stands, right? And it's interesting to see that their Scudetto came, again, in a very short time, right, in twos. This is the same thing that happened in the 80s with Maradona, right?
Yep.
They won two. I don't think it was back to back. It was with one season off.
Might have been back to
in
back.
the middle. I'll double check that. But yeah, it's interesting to see how that works. So they had Maradona, Kvaratskhelia, McTominay.
Exactly,
right?
bro.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kvaradona and McTomadona.
McTomadona.
It can't be us talking about Napoli's Scudetto triumph without highlighting the man himself. We can talk about the players made it happen at the end of the day. They gave it their all every single match, every single team, every single week. But notoriously, right, Antonio Conte, that's his 5th Serie A title in 6 years, with 3 different clubs. He has made history. The only one he didn't win was 1 point behind Juventus during their Allegri streak in 2020, and he won the league the following season with Inter. What an achievement. Tell me about Antonio Conte. We said that he was gonna in our prediction episode months ago when we're halfway through the summer, that he'll definitely get top 4. We said that they'll come second. When the season started, we're 10 games in. We said Napoli are gonna win the league. What does Conte bring to these teams, man?
Conte has, first of all, an incredible plan A, right? He's got his system, the 3-5-2 or the 3-4-3, whatever, the 3 at the back adapted formation. That is, he has that nailed down to a T. Other than that, he, of course, is an expert at transmitting the energy and his fiery character into the players, creating an us against the world kind of mentality that Mourinho was notorious for creating as well. Conte is very good at uniting a group and having the players fight on the pitch for him. This season, we've seen him make strides in the fact that he was also tactically flexible. So there has been development to his game as well, because Conte with a back 4 hasn't been something that we've seen, to be honest, before. The major critics will still argue that Conte leaves a lot to be desired when juggling many competitions, especially that of the Champions League. It's funny, our dad actually called me the other day and he told me, so I was talking to a friend, he told me that you were close to signing Conte. And he said that he's worried because Conte doesn't do well in the Champions League. And our dad told him, but Juve don't do well in the Champions League either, so what's the fucking difference?
It's a match made in heaven. It's a really good signing for
you. Can't blame him, you're always shit in the Champions League.
Just to touch upon that, firstly, I agree with everything you said about Conte. I feel like this season, not that he has so much to prove to anyone, but he definitely proved to us that he has become more tactically flexible. And I think next on his mind is perhaps succeeding. There are 2 options, right? He either wants to succeed in the Champions League, and perhaps with a year under his belt at Napoli, maybe he has the confidence with a few signings and a few tweaks here and there that he could help them triumph in the Champions League, and perhaps he could shut up the critics over there. Or does he go on to manage a team like Milan and win another Scudetto? Because when he took over Napoli, it was almost the exact same situation. Completely out of Europe, one competition to focus on, and he just puts all his eggs in that basket. I'm just going to add some context before I let you speak. Despite this success of Conte, it is seeming like he might move on. And he has sent ADL his list of ambitious requirements, which include 200 million to spend in summer, and the payroll to grow from 80 million to 110 million. Also, something about the training ground renovations. He wants a more sustainable training ground, and he wants a lot of investments to go to the training ground. It was seeming like ADL would have none of this, but he has apparently since, and it has been reported by Ugolini, that ADL is willing to listen to Conte's demands and has used names like Kevin De Bruyne, Sane, Jonathan David, a Kosovan winger named Edon Zegrova.
That's the one that's going to work.
PSG's attacking midfielder Kangin Lee, Davide Frattesi, and he is using all these names to attempt to persuade Conte. Conte tells him, give me 72 hours.
Okay, interesting. And we're on essentially we're approaching the final
hour
20.
3, like, bro. We're on hour 3.
Okay. So
no,
it's
apparently this meeting took place today. Ugolini has reported.
So this is my opinion on this. I think that these demands show clearly that Conte is highly doubtful that anything else can be won with Napoli. He's not confident that they can go back-to-back. He's not confident they can go on a European charge. Conte is a man who always prioritizes his trophy cabinet, right? He wants to be successful. He wants to keep his reputation. As he said when he was at where was he when he said I am a serial winner. where was he? Was it at Chelsea? I don't know.
Well,
you can tell what you want.
He won the league at Chelsea in the Premier League in his I believe
He's
first
won 5
season.
Serie A's. You know, I mean, it's crazy, dude.
Oh, what a guy, man!
Yeah,
what a
so
fucking guy.
I would think that he either wants to win the Serie A again, and I think if his ambition is to win the Serie A, he would do it at a club where he hasn't already done it. He's just become the first coach in history to win the Serie A with 3 different teams. Why not make it 4?
Why not make it 4?
There are vacancies at clubs where you can probably get it done. Like
Milan.
Let's say Milan for example, is the perfect shout because they will give you the tools you need to succeed. They have revenue. In theory, right? There's Roma as well, which look how much they spent to improve the team last season. So there are options for that. Does he want to win the Champions League? And I think a return to Juve will make me think that yes, the Champions League is his next objective.
Perhaps. Well,
of course, it's all speculation.
They're in
right?
Champions League, which is a start, which makes it more likely if he wants to win the Champions League next season. Then I know a team he definitely won't join, and that's Milan or Roma,
or Lazio.
To be fair, or Lazio. Should he leave, it is likely that his destination is Juve or Milan. Of course, we know he won 3 back-to-back Scudetti with Juve. He was heavily linked to Milan last season, but the American owners seem to be racist towards Italian coaches. And it is also reported that ADL, even though he's attempting to persuade Conte right now, and ADL made it clear. He said, I will not force anyone to stay, but I am begging Conte. Like, I can't force him, but I'm on my knees, and I'm willing to do what he says. He didn't say I'm willing to do what he says, but it is seeming like he is gonna try to what he says.
He's always operated like that, ADL. He's always like, if you don't want to be a part of this, you can leave.
Yes.
He's never held anyone against their
But
will.
he has learned from his mistakes. The mistakes that happened under Spalletti, where where Spalletti shockingly left, and then he employed 3 mediocre managers throughout the season and finished 10th. And he has apparently been flirting with Allegri for this entire time. And apparently, Allegri is open to joining Napoli. Allegri is keen to go back to work, and he's keen to fuck Juve over like he feels Juve have fucked him over. Can I just, before I ask you for your opinion, I don't think it's a bad move. If Conte leaves, I think Allegri is one of the best choices Napoli could go for.
I definitely 100% agree with you, because Conte and Allegri are the best Italian coaches available. And once again, for the second season in a row, they're both probably available. And what's happening at Napoli? They're losing one of them. So what are they going to do? They're going to go for the other one, the obvious choice. The 2 coaches on our wall, no?
Absolutely. We've got a third one as well.
We've got a few more, but we'll ignore them.
Well, I think we also have Ballardini.
No, we took him down.
We took Palladino down.
He's no longer on the wall.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Sorry,
but yes,
Palladini.
bro, it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. We're going to have so many moves going into it. I can't wait
So
for our
much.
predictions episode.
Oh man, it's gonna be huge. That obviously comes later on in the summer. For those of you that are wondering, just before Matchday 1, actually. In my eyes, Allegri is a good option. Think of the last 2 managers that Napoli have succeeded with after struggling for so long. It is the guarantee managers. So
often is in
Spalletti,
Italy.
Spalletti is the guy that gets you top 4 no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's what we said. Napoli are back in the top 4 as soon as they get Spalletti. They won the league. We said they'll be back in the top 4 if they get Conte. They won the league. Allegri is one of those guarantees. When didn't Allegri get Champions League? When they stripped the points away from him. Otherwise, he has 6 Scudetti in a row at Juventus. And when he came back in a shambolic, torn apart fan base and club and the fucking their legal team down in bits and stressed out of their asses and players leaving and protests and this and that, he got them top 4 consistently. He won them a Coppa Italia. How can anyone talk shit about Allegri? It really ticks me off because how can a manager like that be so underrated, man, and so hated by Juve fans?
It's because that is. I think it's recency bias. No, it's the goldfish memory. To hate Allegri if you're a Juve fan. However, and you can't even hate him. He won you something and left in the most entertaining way possible, stripping naked, red in the face, screaming at the referee. What else do you want?
Sign me up so hard for Allegri.
That
photo.
The photo.
Jake has a
Wikipedia
page on Allegri open right now, and the photo is just, how could you not love him, man?
He's the best, man. He's a company man, Allegri. He's a very good coach to have for any president, and he also, man, let's not forget that he and Inter could probably do something crazy as well, because you have the possibility right now that Saturday comes, Inter lose the Champions League. This is a possibility. I'm not saying what I hope. I'm not saying what I think. I'm just saying that it exists in the realm of possibilities. And they part ways with Inzaghi. And that leaves... Who's the sporting director of Inter? It's Marotta. And who did Marotta work best with? Allegri, right? And they could reunite at Inter. And potentially that seems like something you would imagine in an alternate universe. Had you told me this when they were both at Juve?
Crazy. And... if he does it, oh man, shut the fuck up. Because if Allegri wins the league at Inter, which sounds like something completely doable, because stylistically no, but as a formation, he operates quite similarly to Simone Inzaghi and to Conte, so there's that element of continuity. He knows the league just like the continuity. He knows the league just like his predecessors. He's well respected. God, I lost my point. He can become the first manager in history to win the Scudetto with Juve, Milan and Inter.
Yep.
Which is something Conte can also do if Conte goes to Milan. Imagine both these moves happen. And
They'd
it's a
be fighting
battle
for the record.
between these guys for the record.
Yes.
That is Netflix documentary series level shit.
And it's a two-pointer.
Oh,
Right?
Madonna.
If it goes down to the wire, you're essentially talking about a two-pointer, because if Conte wins, he goes +2. If Allegri wins, he equalizes.
Think about what that will do to the Derby della Madonnina, bro.
Oh my days.
Think about the touchline fights between the managers. Think about the flares on the pitch. Mamma mia, that is very, very exciting.
Insane.
Let's stop speculating and getting excited.
Let's talk more about Napoli. We'll go on to the celebrations, of course. Because the celebrations were fun. So first of all, it must be noted that De Laurentiis tried to lift the trophy himself, and
I forgot about
and Di Lorenzo had to snatch it out of his hand.
Insane, man.
Hilarious,
Insane. Like before I criticize ADL for that and how he's a filmmaker and a me and a very tough character, also a super underrated figure. Let's keep in mind that this guy, when he joined Napoli, they were bankrupt.
Yeah.
They were nothing.
Serie
He
C.
He brought them back up to Serie A and won them their titles.
Of course.
That's ADL. That's what ADL has done. And that's another person that maybe internally supporters of Napoli tend to criticize him. He doesn't spend enough and this and that. But he's a heroic figure, and they'll only understand that when he's gone, obviously. But he has built, together with these managers, 2 Scudetto winning teams at the end of the day.
You know, a quote I heard, man, yesterday, and I fucking loved it.
From Simi?
It wasn't from Simi, but he would love it. Life can only be lived forwards. No, life has to be lived forwards, but can only be understood backwards.
Yo.
And it's true, because ADL is clearly a Napoli legend. And in reality, in present times, he's probably been scrutinized more than he has been praised. Absolutely.
Christ, I like that.
It's a good one. I'll send it to Simi. I'll be like, hey, Simi, you've heard this one?
We should actually do it.
McTominay was partying in Naples at the end of the game, but his nose was in Medellin, Colombia.
Allegations.
No.
Bro scratched
there was
his
just one
nose.
video of
you know what
everyone
he was doing?
speculating.
You know what he was doing? He was smoking cigs.
He was smoking cigarettes.
And my opinion on cigarettes isn't something that I should share on the podcast, because it's I'd be promoting something that could kill you at the end of the day. But I love a cig on a night out. And McTominay loves a cig on a night out. But I love this human side to players. I think if you're doing it like Szczesny, where you're smoking every week and whatever, look, you do you at the end of the day, but it's not a great look for an athlete, especially if you have one bad performance. You're really giving people ammunition to use against you. But you won the league, smoke a cig.
And everyone's saying, you're a bad example for children, as if there are children. It's like 3 a.m. in a bar, and well, there might be a child, but it's
Naples at the end of the day.
But it's, you know what, man, he fucking, again, if you're celebrating, it's okay. It's fine.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean,
in Formula 1, they're drinking champagne every week when they win a race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. No. And the other thing is who is Napoli's biggest legend? Maradona, who was on the bench for Argentina as their manager, and people are feeding him keys of coke. That's their hero. Now you're gonna hate McTominay. You're gonna criticize McTominay for smoking a cig.
The English media was all over it. I can tell that. I don't think, first of all, he would have behaved this way if he was in England because of the media, but they still fucking managed to post 1 million articles on that.
England. Roasted.
Exactly.
Remember Kvaratskhelia?
I remember.
He was at Napoli.
We might see him on Saturday.
We will see him on Saturday.
We might. He's in doubt for the game.
He's in doubt, is
apparently,
he?
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I can't wait to discuss that game in further depth with you, bro. Is there anything else to be discussed about? Now, I think, obviously, did Napoli deserve to win the league is the biggest question. I hate that question personally, because I think if you won the league, then you deserved it. It's as simple as that. That's what I believe. 83 points, I believe it was, which most 82 points. Most seasons that would not be enough at all. But it was enough this season. Inter, God bless Inter, genuinely God bless Inter, because Napoli had an advantage, not when it came to depth or players or anything like that, but they had the advantage of 1 game a week, right? Inter, for the amount of competitions they were playing in, for the average age of their team, for their schedule at the end of the day, my goodness, did they come close, huh?
They did.
And it feels bad that they have nothing to show for it, essentially. Out of the Coppa Italia, okay, the Coppa Italia, they didn't really come that close. They lost in the semi-final and they got destroyed in the semi-final by Milan at the end of the day. But by 1 point down to the wire in the Scudetto race. And now in the Champions League final, we'll wait to see what happens. They came ridiculously close. And I think there's a part of it that thinks it's a shame, right? That Inter have nothing to show for this season.
From treble to trouble, as we said in our earlier episode title, bro. It's true. They were They were very close. Inter competed on 3 fronts and got to the very end on 3 fronts and might have nothing to show for it. That is the harsh reality of their season.
Shall we use this as a segue? Shall we go into the game?
Yeah, because we can actually move into Inter, yes. And this game against Como, they came in and they did an expert job here. They needed a win. They needed Napoli to slip up, and they actually scored before Napoli, and you can see the joy and how much it meant to them and how hopeful they were. But Napoli ended up winning, of course, 2-0, so the Scudetto was lost. Inter did rest some key players ahead of the final against PSG, which, of course, we were wondering, no? Mm-hmm. Would they go all out? It turns out that they pretty much accepted their fate, you know. They played the likes of Taremi up front, Zalewski and Correa behind him, Aslani in the middle,
Darmian ahead of Dumfries, of course,
and Bissek over there as well.
No Bastoni.
Exactly. And the first goal came in the 27th minute to De Vrij, and it was a header from a Çalhanoğlu corner. This is a classic Inter goal, right? Zonal marking fail by Como. These 2 goals by Inter were very telling. They were very poetic, because the first goal by De Vrij is the perfect example as to Inter's strengths, as to their main threat, and the fact that they are pretty much unplayable from set pieces. And I think that will play a massive part in the final against PSG, because PSG aren't great on set pieces.
Okay.
And then the second goal in the 63rd minute, not the sexy third minute.
Can I just correct the timing? Sorry, I should have them up in front of me. The opening goal scored in the 20th and not the 27th.
Okay.
And the second goal 51st.
Thank you. And in the 51st minute, Correa scored a lovely goal after Taremi laid it off to him. He cut inside and he slid it into the back of the net. And this one is poetic as well, because it's a player who is one of the reasons why they fell short in certain games where they needed a goal. It's a player who proved to not be enough depth-wise, right? So you have clearly a display of their strength and their weakness, both kind of showing up. And Correa's goal, it was too late.
Yeah.
You know, so when finally he does score a good goal, it's too late, because he wasn't good enough when they actually needed him.
And I think there was that one game where he had scored 2 goals, and then I think he hadn't scored since.
Exactly. He's like that. He's a player who works in bursts.
Yeah.
It's worth noting as well that this was Pepe Reina's last game as a professional, which is crazy because we remember him playing when we were kids, bro. 2005 he was there. No, 2005 was...
Bro, he was at Liverpool in 2007. When Milan beat them in the Champions League final, I believe he was.
Yes, bro, because Dudek was 2005 and he was 2007, Reina. First of all, doesn't look that different.
No.
Crazy.
La Bamba.
Second of all, he got sent off on his last game in the 45th minute for leaving his box very recklessly and clumsily. And there was a very heartwarming moment when he was walking off, really embarrassed, and everyone applauded him, including the Inter bench. He's a great Reina. He's one of the greats of the game. He's been even a CV, bro. He's been everywhere.
He's been everywhere. At Milan as well. He had a couple of class performances at Milan, actually.
One of the best ball-playing goalkeepers. I would say that he was the original ball-playing goalkeeper, that he was one of the ones who actually really invented
before Neuer. Neuer took it to a whole different extreme. But you're right. He's very, very good with the ball at his feet. Very great career. Destined for a coaching role. Absolutely. I feel like he's completely destined for a coaching role.
Apparently a fantastic player to have in the dressing room. If we just go through his career very quickly: Barcelona youth product, Villarreal, Liverpool, Napoli, Bayern Munich, Milan, Aston Villa, Lazio, Como, all these teams that he has represented. Absolutely amazing.
Yes. Legend of the game.
So I mean, Inter got the job done. They rested all their key players. They funnily enough, actually, this is quite hilarious actually, bro. So you rest all these players, you're up 2-0, and then in the 60th minute, Inzaghi brings on Barella, Acerbi, Dumfries. Okay, those three, and then Arnautovic and Topalovic. But he's bringing on 3 key players for the final. Imagine they suffered an injury.
I know, but if you look at the substitutions, I mean, Acerbi replaced Di Marco, Barella replaced Çalhanoğlu, Dumfries replaced Bissek. These are other key pieces. But at least they didn't give them a full game. It's still risky. It's risky. They should have gone out with their under 21s technically.
Yeah.
But Napoli could have slipped up and they could have won the league. So I think it was a good balance. And then the 60th minute, it's very cautious. Especially when they've essentially in the 60th minute they had the game won. They were going to be hanging on to the ball. And Como with nothing to play for in that sense. Doubt they would have been flying into challenges and injuring everyone,
Fair. Okay. I just thought it was funny, like how much does this guy believe in match fitness, match sharpness? It's like he's playing FM, he wants to keep it in the green, like match sharpness. Oh my god, I didn't play Barella last game, his match sharpness has gone down. Like, bro, they're playing 60 games a season. You don't need to play him every single game.
Literally.
Jan Bissek is in doubt. He's at risk. I don't know if there's been an update for the final.
Thank God for Inter.
He twisted his knee and he was subbed off.
I think there are better options for the final. I think Pavard, Acerbi, Bastoni is the likely best route to take. And if not, then there's De Vrij and there's Carlos Augusto, who can do a good shift over there. So that's Inter. It's very unfortunate that Inter didn't get anything out of the Scudetto or the Coppa Italia. We'll have a look this weekend and see how they do in the Champions League final against PSG, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I have a feeling that Inter are going to win the Champions League.
I think so. I
think they have an edge when it comes to their street smarts and the fact that they have been on the stage very recently, most of these players, and they have so much experience. Inter, man, are a team who have players who have won the Euros, man, the Coppa Italia, the league, have played in a Champions League final. They've got a lot of experience under their belt. The one strength PSG has is they have a fantastic manager.
A fantastic
manager and a very young team that is finally playing selfless football.
It's playing football.
Yeah.
It's playing football. It's as simple as that. The job that the manager has done, Luis Enrique. The job Luis Enrique has done in coming in. They've got Sheikh Mansour or whatever. No, I think Sheikh Mansour is of City. I'm really not sure what the owner's name is of PSG. If you just want to correct me on that, please.
Isn't it a country?
Essentially. Is it Sheikh Mansour?
I know his face, this guy. What the hell's his name, man? He's giving me pictures.
God, there's literally a picture of him. Can't click on the...
Nasser Al-Khelaifi.
That's...
you know the face.
Exactly.
You know the airline.
Exactly. He's freaking out because they lost Mbappe on a free. They lost Neymar. They lost Messi, and that was what the entire brand. They lost Verratti. That's what the entire brand was centered around. But they've lost them, and they're playing the best football they've ever played in the past years. I know they made a Champions League final and lost out to Bayern Munich a few years ago, like 5-6 years ago, I believe. Neymar had the season of his life over there. He was phenomenal. But now they actually have a team that's well constructed. Dembele, like I remember when they signed Gvara, I'm like, don't they have Dembele? Don't they have him? And why are they giving up Kolo Muani when they don't have a striker? But Dembele is completely reinvented as a striker. If PSG win the Champions League, Dembele has a serious shout for the Ballon d'Or. For
this
example.
Season he's had a second breakout season.
Literally, bro. But Nunmenj, Donnarumma, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, fucking Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, all of these guys are doing a wicked job at PSG, and they are one of the more complicated teams that Inter can face, because Inter struggle against teams that are set up to counter-attack you and to attack you from all angles. And that's what, and grade down the middle. And that's what they have with Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, Dembele, so on and so forth. So it is an interesting affair. It looks like it could be another shootout. And I'm pumped because of the way Inter have been playing. And the games have been so end-to-end. And PSG have so much flair. And they have so many quality players. I think it could be a really good Champions League final, man.
Absolutely.
Hard to root for Inter, but it would be good for Serie A to see Inter win a trophy, especially. It's a shame for the fan base, and it's a shame for the people after having done so much throughout the season, and they get nothing. It would be way too painful.
Absolutely. Let's. If I were an Inter fan, I would be hoping to God that it doesn't go to penalties.
Yeah, it's done if it goes to penalties.
It's done.
I know they've been sharing the clip of Sommer when he saved Jorginho's penalty by dropping his shoulder one way.
Donnarumma's next level.
Donnarumma
is, by the way, as it stands. Remember when we started this podcast talking about how he could be, and he's on track to be one of the best. As it stands, he's the best.
He's the best goalkeeper
by far,
in the world.
To be honest.
He's
Yes,
the best
yes.
Don't say that to a Liverpool fan. God, you guys are nightmares sometimes, huh? Alisson. But Donnarumma's the best goalkeeper in the world.
I know who I would want if I had to pick someone to defend my life or to catch an organ. Someone has to extract my heart and throw
not to catch a cross, huh? Not to catch a cross, because that Coppa final or whatever the fuck it was against Juve, we were watching it on an Android on a cruise ship, bro.
My God. One more thing before we move on. I hate when I forget something and have to add it on late, but Cutrone had a massive miss and it has to be talked about.
Okay.
Or mentioned rather than talked about.
I didn't see it.
He got the ball at an angle, but that is the situation where a striker should be scoring, and he shot it. It was too central. Yeah.
I think that's the thing Como should focus on next year, is if they had a lethal striker. I know they brought in Duvikas and someone else. I don't think they've hit the ground running completely. I think it is worth investing in a good upcoming number 9. Maybe look at the Portuguese league or something like that.
It's a tough one because Cutrone represents the spirit of Como, right? So you almost want to keep him there for that. I wouldn't be surprised if he remains and is barely deployed just for that extra motivation.
There's a reality.
He's so hype as a player.
I wouldn't be surprised. But there's a reality that Como, you remember how they ended the January mark day, offering 40 million for Theo Hernandez? Yeah. Could be very much signs of things to come in summer. What if they go out and get someone like Viktor Gyökeres and all of these guys? They can. Financially, they're in a position to buy whoever they want. Financially, they can do it. They can do what Newcastle did. They can do what PSG did. They can do what City did. They can do all that.
Yeah, and they have good reason to pull. They have an exciting project, a nice place to live, good facilities, a lot of money. So yes, bro, absolutely. But they would have to convince and compete against some of the biggest teams in the world, because Gyökeres this season is...
Gyökeres is just an example in my mind of...
He's so good. He's so good. He's so good.
Mental.
He's
mental.
so good. Yeah.
I don't know why United didn't push for him a little bit more when they got Amorim.
Maybe they're like, you know what?
We're going to steal him.
We don't want to ruin this one.
Shall we jump to... So that's Napoli, champions. Inter just missed out. Juve are the team that got that fourth spot that has been in contention for ages. We knew Atalanta were going to get that third spot. That's why they're not up here in the discussion. But in this match, the way that we went into it is Venezia need to win if they want to survive. Juve need to win if they want top 4. Turns out a win wouldn't have been enough for Venezia. More of that to come. Venezia 2, Juve 3. Venezia were without Idzes, Svoboda and Conde. Just shit for them. Juve without Kalulu, Bremer and Cabal. I'm no longer going to mention, well, I don't think I ever mentioned Milik being out, because it doesn't really matter. But Venezia opened the scoring in the second minute, and it was an Ellertson cross from the left, and Fila kneed it in.
Conde was in doubt, but he actually started.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Conde. Yeah. Yes, I did say Conde. Correct. It was an Ellertson cross from the left, and Fila went to volley it, hit his knee and went in at the near post. Great start for Venezia. We were freaking out while watching this game. It was
crazy, yeah.
5th minute, Juve had a disallowed goal. A brilliant Alberto Costa stunner from outside the box. Smashed into the top corner, but he did handle the ball on its way down. 25th minute, Yildiz equalized. It was a quick throw-in that really caught the Venezia defense sleeping. This is what I always tell Jake. Why don't people take advantage of throw-ins more? Toss it forward as far as you can and make your fast players chase it. Yeah. There's no offside. Just get them up next to the corner flag and just exactly their defensive line goes down. Here it was quick reactions. We've seen this from Juve before. We've seen Tudor pretty much manhandle someone to take a fast throw in before, but they've learned over here. They took it fast, and Kenan Yildiz cut inside and squeezed it past Radu. What a player, obviously. 31st minute, Colomwani made it 2-1. Patrick Kendrick. How is that Nicolosi Caviglia's fault? How the hell? Xing Tian gave the ball directly, because I hate this. Xing Tian gave the ball directly to Colomwani. The person trying to get the ball back isn't the guy at fault. Colomwani did brilliantly, took the ball wide and finished off balance from a tight angle. Super goal. Not Nicolosi Caviglia's fault.
Agreed.
Nicolosi Caviglia was at fault later on.
Exactly. For the
Not 2 minutes later, he hit the post from a crossing position. He went for the near post, the classic,
the Caviglia classic,
the Caviglia classic, CC baby. So he really was there trying his best. And then in the 22nd minute, Caviglia gave a brilliant long ball to Yeboah, who crossed the ball low, and it was finished by Haps, deflected in off Savona. So in the 55th minute, it's 2-2. And then Venezia had an opportunity through Yeboah at the far post. What a save by Di Gregorio.
Oh my God.
Insane save. And that's what you get with a keeper like Di Gregorio, with his tall stature, his strong arms, that kind of
cat-like reflexes.
Cat-like reflexes. Brilliant save by Di Gregorio.
And he punched it upwards. The technique on the save was really good.
Insane. Yeah. And then in the 73rd minute, Chico Conceição, who has divided a fan base of opinions. Should we keep him? Should we sell him? In a game like this, he's a guy you need. Just like you needed him in the Champions League when he got you that goal at the end, or he won you that penalty at the end. Here, he wins the penalty by attempting to dribble past Nicolosi Caviglia. Too quick for him. Nicolosi sticks his leg out, catches the man. Clear foul. Penalty. Locatelli steps up, puts it in the top corner. Well tracked by the keeper, by Radu, but nothing he could do about it as Locatelli buried it into the top corner. And Juve seal 4th position and the Champions League spot. Venezia officially relegated to Serie B, even though, like I said earlier, a win wouldn't have gotten them Serie A anyway.
Because against all odds, Parma beat Atalanta and Empoli lost to Hellas Verona. Yeah,
and Lecce beat Lazio.
Exactly, and Lecce beat fucking 10-man Lecce beat Lazio.
Away.
Absolutely crazy. But yes, Venezia, till the end, once again, a game that defines their entire season. This last match day was extremely poetic, bro. I don't know if it's because I was looking at it with a sense of nostalgia and appreciating how the season has flown by, but this game literally demonstrates Venezia couldn't have played a better game.
Yeah.
They were really good going forward, defensively sound. A few lapses in concentration, like on that throw-in and with the Nicolosi Caviglia free kick and the penalty, and the mistake. Yes, but other than that, they passed the eye test with flying colours, and all they needed, in my opinion, was give Di Francesco a budget of fucking 30 million to play with this team, and he could get things done.
They have the budget, technically, Venezia. They're one of the wealthier Serie B
in theory,
teams.
But they went through some hassle, I think, with their owners.
Look, they started, to me it was two things. Let's start with Venezia, then we'll move to Juve. We'll get the sad part over and out. Like you said, they went down fighting. But
the very last
day. They started too late. They started too late. They started performing too late. And it's a good thing that they kept Di Francesco, because they did start performing. And in one of their toughest spells of the season, they got some brilliant results against some of the top teams in Serie A. But at the end of the day, every point counts, and it was too little, too late. Even a victory over here wouldn't have gotten them survival. They lost 3-0 to Cagliari last week. And that's a perfect segue into this point that I'm about to make. Their record against the bottom 6 teams was abysmal.
It was.
That's where they lost the league. They lost the league in those 6 pointers. They have, against the bottom 6, 2 wins, 6 draws, 4 losses.
That's terrible.
2 wins against the bottom 6 teams. That is 12 matches.
That's relegation for me.
2 wins.
That's
there, you get relegated. And I'm sad to say, Di Francesco, his future is in doubt. Of course, that is 2 relegations in 2 years.
It is. But I think when you really look at the fact that Venezia came up from Serie B, the reinforcements weren't exactly great. They were weak, exactly. They're young players brought in on loan, or a few. We saw their wage bill. We discussed it a few weeks ago. Even the fact that you lose Paolo halfway through the season and you don't replace him. You replace him with a guy, Fila, he scored against Juve, granted, this game, but, you bring in someone with some experience, man. You bring in the likes of Colombo, you bring in the likes of Piccoli, these guys, who have been who have grown used to being specialists in survival. But I think Di Francesco did a pretty good job this season with what he did, and he actually demonstrated quite a lot of growth as a manager, especially when it comes to defensive organization. If you look at the goals they conceded the same amount of goals as Udinese this season.
Oh, wow.
Venezia. It's just the fact that they weren't scoring because they didn't have a 9. That's the difference between Venezia. Look at Venezia, Lecce, Parma, Cagliari, Verona. It's the striker, man. Yep. That's the main difference. Because creatively, Venezia have players who are better than Hellas Verona's creative players or Cagliari's creative players, like Nicolucci Caviglia and Yaboa and Oristagno and Zerbin. They're all very dangerous. They're all very inventive. But the problem is they didn't have a reference point up front, and it really punished them.
Absolutely. I think their midfield was good. Once they brought in Kike Perez, it showed really good balance. And I think they had decent depth as well with Duncan over there.
It's a shame Duncan wasn't available for most of the season.
Right. Jay says, I think two standout players were obviously Caviglia and Ditzes. Those two have to stay in Serie A. Not only will they stay in Serie A, but they'll play in top 10 teams. Those two, I think. Itzes and Caviglia, I'd take them both at Milan, for example. I think Caviglia as a number 6, he could start as Milan gets Ricci and they have that good kind of dual thing going on. I'll probably look back at this episode and laugh because Milan won't get either of them. But Jay Itzes can start.
Yeah.
Jay Itzes can start. He's a fantastic
I think he's great, Itzes.
Shall we jump to... so sad to bid adieu to Venezia. Venezia aren't one of those teams that are going to go down to Serie B and we'll never hear of them again. They'll be back. Unfortunately, their last 2 stints in Serie A has seen go up, go down, go up, go down.
We'll miss those 12:30 Sunday afternoon television sessions with Venice on the TV.
They're ambitious. They want a new stadium as well. I think that's not the end of Venezia. Let's go through Juve's season a little bit before we talk about Tudor and their manager situation. This was Juve's season. Juve got knocked out of the Champions League against PSV. Juve got knocked out of the Coppa Italia by Empoli. Juve sacked Motta in March. And now Juve have made the Champions League. Definitely not a positive season for Juventus, but something to smile about and cheer about at the end of what was a turbulent season. Do you think Juve were the team that deserved this? I guess they had. I hate these deserved questions. But I think they were, like Roma came back into it after they changed manager. I think Juve, despite leaving a lot to be desired, one thing that Motta brought in the beginning, for example, was those bunch of draws. And you see, they got Champions League by, 1 point, 2 points? 1 point.
Yep.
That's one of Motta's draws.
yeah, fair enough, bro. It was a decent start by Motta. It was very cautious, he wasn't conceding, but they weren't scoring many goals. It was either a 1-0 win or a draw. That's
or
how
a 4-4 draw to Inter.
Exactly. I think they abandoned the project way too quickly. He didn't make it... Motta made it easy for Juve to sack him because those 2 thrashings in a row. In Italy, you don't really get away with them unless you're Zanetti of Hellas Verona, apparently. I feel like because they gave up on Motta and they panicked and they sold him, they sacked him, I think they ended up wasting a season in reality because, unless the season just showed them that maybe Giuntoli isn't the guy to trust the project with, and maybe they're going to replace him as well. But it just feels like a wasted season for me. But at least they got top 4, and that would have been one of their main objectives.
Yeah, I think it would have been devastating for them not to get top 4, obviously financially and as a club that always get top 4. They always get top 4. Giuntoli's future is a question mark. I think Elkan and the rest of the board aren't going to be too pleased with the fact that the players that he brought in flopped so fucking goddamn
aggressively,
hard, aggressively, like Cope Miners and Douglas Luiz flopped so bloody hard. And then the players that he let go for chips, like Huijsen and Soler. Huijsen's off to Madrid, and Soler is essentially the next Dybala at Roma. He's the new Gioia of the capital. So Giuntoli's future is, I believe, at risk. And it's interesting to see who Juve appoint, because if they appoint someone now, was it Elkan's decision? Was it Giuntoli's decision? Giuntoli didn't want Conte back. Elkan likes Conte, and there's this whole yada yada. But what we can talk about is what we know. This is Tudor's situation. Tudor, his contract was automatically extended after Juve secured Champions League, right? Yep. So Juve secured Champions League, so his contract was automatically extended. Thank you.
Pleasure.
However, the club still have the option to sack him. Despite this extension, they can sack him by just paying him out. Here's 1 million euros. 1 million. They have to pay him. In that case, they give him 1 million. Thank you for your service. You're out. We'll see you again, hopefully, in the future. They've been linked now with Conte. He has apparently already been chosen to take over, and that's who they want. Tudor has met up with Juve's directors to clarify his post-match comments. So after this match, obviously he knew that his contract was extended automatically, he said in a press conference, basically, if I'm not confirmed for next season, it wouldn't be right to lead the team out at the Club World Cup. He stressed that a clear decision should come before the tournament, not after. He's not willing to coach Juve in the Club World Cup if they didn't extend his contract. Juve's board called him to the office. Apparently, they've agreed that he will lead them out in the Club World Cup, and that's the outcome. How much of it is his decision? Why are they stalling it? Why do they want him to lead them out to the Club World Cup? Are they sacking Giuntoli? Are they bringing Conte?
They would want Conte to start. I think Conte rather would want to start afresh, because the Club World Cup is technically part of this season. He would want to start afresh without any impressions. Give me a pre-season, give me a transfer market. These are my plans. These are what I want. No distractions, no bullshit. Tudor going out and saying, I don't essentially want to coach the Club World Cup. I'm not going to continue with this team. And then the board coming out and saying, listen, it's in his contract. That's what he's saying. It's hilarious to me.
It is. I understand.
Like, you have to, bro. You signed the contract. But I know what you mean. Yes, it feels redundant, right? It feels a bit like a farewell thing. But
it's a bit.
It's a good exposure for him if he's going to become available as a coach.
Yes, for sure. And if he loves the club, then these are sacrifices. He said he's willing to sacrifice anything. He drove all
the driving he did.
But now he won't go to the Club World Cup. Yeah. Debatable. What I will say is that I understand that it's a bit cheeky, because his contract is automatically extended. They're like, yay, great, take us out to the World Cup, to the Club World Cup. Nice, good job or bad job. You're fired nonetheless. No matter what you do, you're fired nonetheless. Bring in Conte, let's win the league. Exactly. So that's where you are right now. Like, it's great that they got Champions League. I think there's a lot of work to be done in the summer period. Who are they bringing in? Manager-wise, player-wise, who's staying, who's leaving? They got so many decisions wrong that the pressure is on. Not only are they going to feel the pressure when the season starts, but the real pressure is on in the summer period for Juve, because they did so much work. And Motta came in, and Giuntoli came in. They're like, you out, you deadweight, Danilo, Huijsen, Soler, and all these guys bloody fired, and this whole cutthroat thing.
Yeah.
And they ruined everything. Not that it was going well for them. And I think the cutting of dead weight was important, but I think they overestimated what the dead weight actually was, and they considered 21-year-old talents as dead weight. They
considered them as markups, as profit, pure profit, especially when you get rid of someone like Dean Huijsen who was at Roma just screaming, "I'm a freak of nature," like look at me,
Literally.
I'm dribbling everyone from centre back and scoring while also keeping up with some of the best, and I'm only 18. You don't sell that guy.
And the confidence.
And another one with Sule cutting inside and curving a ball. I've never seen a ball curve without actually moving in midair. He's got such a strange striking technique, Sule,
It's
bro.
a knuckleball, right?
It's a knuckleball, but it curves. It's mental. Yes.
It is crazy.
You don't cash in on those guys.
No. And you have Sole carrying a newly promoted team at 18 years old or 19 years old, whatever. Then you get Hausen, whatever, offered to Frosinone, and he goes, as an 18-year-old, I'm not going to Frosinone, I'm going to Roma and I'm going to play. And I was like,
You're insane.
Don't go to Roma, you're not going to get playing time, and for nothing we're going to send you out on loan. He's like, no, I'm going to go to Roma and I'm going to play. And he was one of their best defenders. He brought that kind of, what he brings. He carries the ball forward, great distribution.
Nonchalance, bro. He brings.
Nonchalance. He's just a chill guy.
Literally.
So,
celebration.
Great work, just to end it here. Great work by Juve to get Champions League. A lot of work to be done in summer. I think it's huge for them if they manage to land Antonio Conte. If they don't land Antonio Conte, there's the option of Palladino, who has Juve DNA, but are they really going to go for another manager who lacks experience with top teams? The same way that Motta failed, in inverted commas, Palladino can fail. There are multiple options in the market right now. There's Allegri, who they won't get, Motta, who they won't get, Palladino, Gilardino, Vanoli, Sarri, Gasperini, Vieira, Conceição. These are all options, and some of them are viable options. I do see Gasperini, for example, could do a great job. Palladino as well. There are some serious options.
There are pros and cons that have to be seriously evaluated with all these coaches. And judging with the way they handled Motta, Palladino would be an idiotic move, because literally they showed that they want someone who can get the job done immediately. So you don't go for a profile like that, right? And then you have Gasperini, who the only criticism to his name, Gasperini, as it stands, is his handling of stars, man. His handling of big players.
Imagine him with Yildiz.
Imagine him. That's.
I think Juve should do every single little thing they can to get Conte.
Yeah.
I think if they get Conte, then they at least give themselves a good boost for however long he's there. And I think he could really at least give them a system to play around with and get them back to where Juve deserve to be in that sense, or where they're known to be.
You can tell what you want, but I am a serial winner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well done.
Torino,
on to the next.
0, Roma 2. This was Ranieri's final triumph, and he almost did it. My God, he almost did it. He almost got Roma to the Champions League by missing out with just 1 point. That's such a shame, because it would have been a miraculous turnaround. If only they had never gone for Juric and went immediately for Ranieri. Can you imagine? Hindsight is so clear, right?
Clearly.
Yeah. This was a 2-0 victory thanks to... First of all, they started off with great early intent, because they struck the post very early on through Shomorodov, Roma. And they were just peppering the goal. And then in the 18th minute, it was Paredes who put them 1-0 up through I'm not going to use the word ferocious again, through a missile of a penalty, right? A very powerful penalty.
Oh, and
yeah,
Vanya still got close.
He did. He still got
close.
Had he saved that, it would have ricocheted back to Paredes and killed him, by the way. That's what would have happened. It was a clumsy foul by Ali Dembele on Salamakers, which won them the penalty. And the second goal came in the second half. It was Salamakers who scored a header. Apparently he does that nowadays. And yeah, put them 2-0 up, and they won the game. It was interesting to see the wingers swapping sides this game. Cristante had a goal disallowed. He was Angelino's kneecap was offside on the assist. But this was literally what we grew used to seeing from Roma under Ranieri. Very organized, with a splash of creativity, and I feel like Salamakers this game had a fantastic game.
A fantastic game. That could also be his last game for Roma, because the Tammy Abraham Salamakers loan swap basically Milan might not want to hold on to Tammy Abraham. So that could be Salamaker's last game. It's of course Ranieri's last game. And it's also, if you want to start with Torino, it's also Vanoli's last game.
Vanoli's last game. Now this apparently has, as you said, they're trying to persuade him to stay.
No, they're sacking him.
They're sacking.
They're
so
sacking
who was the
him.
one who's
Palladino.
Palladino, okay. So with Vanoli, so he's been sacked. Now
He's in the process, so there's no official statement, but
exactly.
apparently he's being
the
sacked.
media is all over that. I don't understand what more exactly the expectations of Vanoli are, because so he lost Duvan Zapata very early on in the season. They were flying when they had him, you know what I mean? And once again, they didn't have a like-for-like profile for him. They ended up going for Shea Adams, who is a very different type of striker. Not to mention when many of these reinforcements came in halfway through the season, right? Like Elmas and Casadei. So, and it's his first season in Serie A. I don't know. I feel like he showed that he has a good basis to work on, to improve, to grow with, to give him the keys, you know?
Yes, but then it was also the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games were really bad by Torino. I mean, in their last 9 games, they've got 1 win, they've got 3 draws, and they've got 5 losses. A really grey spell for them, of course, with nothing to play for. I think they started well. Duvan had started really well. Decently at least. They had a really good start. Their opening 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches, they were undefeated. And that included a draw to Milan, a victory over Atalanta, a victory over Venezia, a draw to Lecce, and a victory over Torino. After that, then they went on a negative spell. After that, they went on they remained on a very negative spell, losing to Roma, losing to Fiorentina, losing to Juve, losing to Napoli, losing to Bologna. I mean, what do you... The question is, Cairo, what are his ambitions?
What do you want? Bro?
Because, I mean, it confuses me, because this is essentially... They kept Juric for 3 seasons, and Juric barely did any better than this. It was similar.
He was 10th pretty much every season.
He was 10th pretty much. Is it like get 10th or you're out?
Yeah, yep, you got 11th, you're out.
Yeah, exactly. You got 11th, Vanoli, so you're out. That's the question mark. But apparently, I think it is more the case of who they're interested in. And I know that...
I remember Baroni, Gattuso,
and apparently Gilardino is a name that's also being mentioned. I couldn't recommend Gilardino enough. I think Gilardino is a great coach.
Nice project for Gilardino to take on.
Right.
I hope that happens.
Baroni is an interesting one. I didn't know he was on the fucking market. Why is Baroni on the market?
I can't understand how...
Anything. I don't understand anything when it comes to managers.
It's a weird one, because again, if you have a decent first season which showed signs of promise, that's something to build on.
Yeah.
It's season 1. It's year 1 of a project that could take 4 or 5 years, of a relationship that could blossom into something beautiful. I think with what's his name, with what Baroni, the fact that he couldn't really get much out of the teams in the top 7 really hindered him. It really affected him negatively, as in as his season and the way he is viewed by the board, because I think Milan is the only team he actually beat in the top 7.
He failed in the Derby della Capitale. It was a draw and
he
a
got
win.
spanked by Inter like 6-0, at one point as well. Yeah, there are certain moments where there were lapses. But however, in my opinion, he had them playing fearless football, man. I thought that it was...
He had them playing good
They won
football.
the Europa League group.
Yeah. He had them playing really good football in a massive season of transition. The changes and the downgrading that Lazio have gone through over the past 2-3 seasons is huge. They lost a manager that had been there for a while. First, obviously, they lost Simone, and then they lost Sarri. Ciro, there's no need to say this every episode, but to remind everyone, Ciro, Sergei, Immobile, Anderson... These were super important players. This was the core. It is the equivalent of Milan losing Leao, Reinders, Theo Pulisic, Pioli,
Exactly.
losing all of that. So yes, they didn't make. I think it's a fucking shame they didn't make any form of Europe, because I think they deserved it. I think they had. It's against the top 7 teams where they struggled. Yes, they bottled it. Their bottle jobs. They bottled it against Lecce,
10-man
which
Lecce.
fucked them. Oh my god, how much we're talking about Lazio, and we're
Hey,
supposed
it's
to be
not
talking
even
about
Lazio's
Torino.
turn.
But yeah,
that's
point
basically
made.
Everything about Torino. I mean, we'll see what they do. Roma, on the other hand, yes, they have been linked to Gasperini as a manager. That would be exciting. That would be cool, I think, as a nice step up from Atalanta that Gasperini deserves. It feels like this one is maybe manageable for his character. But we'll see. The future holds a lot of mysteries when it comes to Roma, when it comes to fucking every single team in this league right now.
I think this is from the reports that I've seen on X. This is the closest one that there is at the moment. Gasperini to Roma. It's heavily linked. Of course, Gasperini was heavily linked to Napoli last season. But it is seeming like he had that meeting with the board, came out, and it seems like he's ready to go. It seems like he's ready to go out. What do you get with Gasperini as a manager? What you said,
black eye.
he can clash with players like he did with Papu Gomez and multiple other players at Atalanta, key players, big talents, big egos, obviously. He's definitely a motivator and a very skilled tactician. And another good thing about him is he works in hand with the sporting director. That is the key importance over there. Like he did with Atalanta, where they brought in so much good talent. That's not just the sporting director. That's not just the scouting network. That is Gasperini having a clear identity and having a clear idea of how he wants his team to play football. I think if Roma needs settlement, he's one of the top guys that they can go for. Knows the league, knows the level.
He's also a disciplinarian to the point that Ranieri is quite authoritative, but he's a nice guy. He's a gentleman, right? Ranieri, and everyone says what a great guy he is. Gasperini has been criticized by certain players, like who was it? It was Højlund and someone else. I can't remember who it was, but he wouldn't even let them drive together to training because he felt it was distracting for them. So he does come with his quirks. Hopefully they'll be accepted. And as there have been players at Napoli who said that you need to surrender to his methods and he will make you one of the best. And it's true. It's true. You know, there are those who criticize him and to end up fading into obscurity, into irrelevance rather. And then there are those who praise him, who surrender to his system, who say, listen, I am at military camp over here. I'm at Atalanta. I need to fucking work my way into the system. I need to do exactly what this guy wants. And suddenly you are getting a better salary. You're playing for one of the best clubs in the world. You know what I mean?
And a plus that Gasperini is for sure gonna have at Roma rather than Atalanta is Roma have more pull than Atalanta, because they're a more historic team. They're in the capital. They've got legends like Totti. They've got more DNA and identity.
And they can offer higher salaries.
They can offer higher salaries. American owners, classic. Well, Atalanta have American owners as well. And so will Udinese, by the way, apparently.
Yes.
Apparently Pozzo's letting go of Udinese. More of that to come. But it's interesting to see what is needed for Roma in the summer market. I think they got incredibly close and there's clearly something to work with over there. There will be a lot of movement because these guys like to spend money. They've made flop signings. Think of Lefebvre, for example, who, all right, went and did bits at Sunderland. Is he at Sunderland?
Yes.
That's certain signings.
Yes, confidently, and I know I saw him in the playoffs, in the UK playoffs, but I'm not sure for which team. That's
Lefebvre. I think.
Yes, Sunderland.
Yes, they got promotion.
Congrats.
So they did make some weird signings, but they've also made the signings of Salamakers on a loan, who did well. Kone, who did very well. Sule, who did extremely well. Dovbik, who did pretty well as well. You know, And then they've got some players who are destined to leave. Like, I think Paredes has been flirting to leave and go back to Argentina, I think they were saying, or go to a smaller league. There's also Salamakers, who's on his way probably back to Milan.
Yeah.
Dybala, they shouldn't keep him. They shouldn't keep Dybala. Pellegrini needs to go. You know, there's a lot of work to be done. And I think what they need is someone with a clear strategy, not someone that they're going to build a team around, or the sporting director is going to build a team around, and then that person leaves and they bring in a Juric who has to adapt to whatever the last manager wanted.
They need continuity, some stability, some consistency.
Exactly. And they can get 3 good years out of Gasperini.
Yes, I think so. I think that would be extremely interesting, bro. The next one's yours, I believe.
Yes, Fiorentina for the 4th year in a row make the Conference League. This came after, obviously, Lazio's slip-up, which I believe we're talking about next.
There must be a statistic that shows they are the team that has played the most games in the Conference League or has qualified. They're the only team has qualified for every edition.
Since the conception of the Conference League, they've been there every year.
Every year. It's crazy. And every year you need a different league position to get it. So they're just, it's wild.
And the way that they did get Conference League was controversial. Obviously, we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about Palladino, how he's exited the club. But let's start with the game. In the 2nd minute, Keane scored, but it was flagged offside. It would have been a De Gea assist. But United fans, I thought he couldn't play with the ball at his feet, but whatever. In the 26th minute, Udinese opened the scoring through who other than Lorenzo Lucca. Highly sought after by Milan and by Ilyatare as well.
Of course.
He wants a big move. He's been verbal about wanting a big move, but here rocket from 12 yards out, got Udinese the lead. And then in the 39th minute, Bijol got his 2nd yellow for a slight tackle where he clearly got the ball. Clearly got the ball. And if anything, he tripped. Mari, ever so slightly, Mari made a meal of it because he's intelligent. But a red card, they couldn't check it. This is the stupidest fucking bloody shit in football at the moment. And this is where I criticize VAR more than anything. Because how could you not? Because it's a yellow card. It's a 2nd yellow, which leads to a red card. Am I stupid for thinking that, for having this opinion? Because how do the smartest people that run the beautiful game not share that if it's a penalty, if it's leading to a red card, if it's anything like that, Jesus fucking Christ, you should be able to check it.
Yeah, I am of the same opinion. I think it's ridiculous. Game's gone if that's a red, if that's a 2nd yellow.
Absolutely. And then, obviously, Udinese need to play with Jaka Bijol off the pitch, and they're suddenly a man down. 46th minute, bizarre goal by Fiorentina. And I say bizarre goal because Okoye, Jesus Christ, what was bro doing?
Let me tell you what it was like, bro. You ever had a laser pointer with your cat? Every shot basically was, I don't know if you want to describe it, but
go ahead.
Fagioli attempted 3 shots
total,
and the first 2 were blocked by different body parts randomly of defenders just putting themselves in front of the goal. But Okoye in the background, despite the shot not traveling, was just fucking committing fully to every shot.
Bro. Completely committing to every shot. And by the time the 3rd shot came in,
he was exhausted and on the floor.
Exactly. And it was an easy finish at the end of it because he fully committed. Christ, it's basics. Don't just throw yourself. That's not what makes a good goalkeeper. A good goalkeeper isn't someone that dives and can really save balls that are diving. It's a goalkeeper that can read the game.
Yeah, exactly.
And stays firm and stands tall when they have to. And that's a mistake.
Appreciate the enthusiasm, though, Okoye. Hilarious goal.
But Fiorentina were completely bombing them. They were bombing Udinese at this point. They're a man up, and then comes Commuzzo. Richardson cut back Commuzzo. Who knew he had that in his locker? Cheeky back heel, man. Past Okoye. Back heel by Commuzzo.
It was Viola-esque.
Literally Viola-esque. For La Viola. 61st minute, Udinese equalised with 10 men. It was Cabasele who bundled in after a chaotic corner and clearance ricochet. It was absolute mayhem. Keane nearly scored with a rocket in the 75th minute. To be fair to Okoye, he saved that spectacularly. However, and then Keane scored in the 82nd minute to give Fiorentina the 3-2 lead and the victory. He dummied past a defender, shot, and he scored via deflection off of Zemura. Fiorentina get Europa League. Before we talk about that,
Conference League.
Sorry, what did I say?
Europa League.
Europa, sorry.
They wish.
Conference League.
No, actually, they don't.
Actually, let's not go into the red card. I feel like we've discussed that enough, and it's a little bit negative. Fiorentina pulled off this mini miracle by snatching Conference League spot thanks to obviously Lazio's absolute bottle job. It's their 4th straight season. In those 4 seasons, they've made 2 finals under Italiano, lost them both, one to West Ham, one to Olympiacos. They've made a semi-final with Palladino against Real Betis, and they lost that. And now they're once again a wild card entry. My following question to that was, can they finally win it all next year? But we don't even know who the manager is going to be. So how are we supposed to answer that question?
I can't tell you, but for me, the season by Palladino was a success. Because they finished above Lazio, Milan and Bologna, and they qualified for Europe, right? For Conference League.
If a normal team, if one of the top teams would have won the Coppa Italia, which is typically the case either Inter or Juve, then they would have gotten Europa League football.
Exactly.
Which over the past 5 years, had they gotten into 6th place, they would have gotten Europa League football. Exactly. So over the past 5 years, over the past 3 years, they finished in 7th place to get Conference League.
It's true.
8th place to get Conference League as well when there was the coefficient.
They played good football, man. We saw some comeback seasons from players who we didn't expect it to come from. We saw them go quite far in the Conference League, and they lost very nobly to a Real Betis side who has made it to the final, who might win the whole thing tonight.
Yeah.
So, I think they had a successful season overall. It's a shame that Palladino might be leaving.
Well, he's made it clear he wants to leave. And you've had, I forget the name of the owners of Fiorentina.
But Rocco Commisso.
They have him openly criticizing Palladino as the season is progressing.
Yeah.
Openly criticizing him. And he's doing bits. He's just being criticized and criticized and criticized. Yeah. That's not what a manager wants. He was, in my opinion, from a viewer's perspective with the research that I do, he was mistreated and he was mishandled. You get someone like that from Monza, 39 years old, 40 years old. It's a project. It's the same thing you did with Italiano. You know what I mean? You're hiring a young manager.
Exactly.
You're building a philosophy around him. They gave him the ability to sign some players himself. Okay, some of them failed, like Colpani, who he brought with him from Monza. But I don't blame him for wanting to leave. Now, is a bigger job on the cards for him? Did Juve call him? Did Juve say, if you leave now, we'll hire you the second, or we'll hire you after the Club World Cup? Did Milan do that? Did Lazio do that? I don't know.
We'll see. Because God knows,
we couldn't tell you. It's important when we're talking about Fiorentina to talk about the most unprecedented or unexpected, rather, redemption arc that there was this season.
The revenge greedy.
just that one moment. Moise Keane, his season has been a reverse greedy. A revenge greedy.
It's true.
19 league goals, 25 in all competitions. He's gone from meme to monster. He got the game winner over here. He has a release clause of 52 million. So he can be snapped up. We've seen him in the Prem. He flopped at Everton. But I wouldn't be surprised if another Prem team came in and tried to get him.
That's what I was gonna say, and it would be once again. I sound like a fucking conservative dweeb right now, but it would be foolish of him to leave after one season successful at that Fiorentina, man. Fucking foolish it would be. I swear to God. Why would you leave? This is how it is. So you go somewhere, you do well, and you immediately fucking.
It's silly.
Yeah,
It's silly. Because you're doing well.
Build your game. You're 25 years old. You had one good season after 3 fucking rough ass seasons. Like, establish yourself. You're in an environment where you've got a reputation, you're loved, you're the center of the project. I don't know, unless a very, very good deal comes or someone tells me, like, come, we're going to make you the center of a project and it's a manager who can get the most out of you, sure, go for it. But these types of players always end up at United.
Literally. Literally.
You know?
That's a 52 million move to United.
Exactly.
But a word to Rocco, Mr. Rocco, my brother Rocco, if you're listening. Finally, you guys have gotten it right with a striker. It wasn't Jovic, it wasn't Inzola, it wasn't Cabral, it wasn't any of these guys. It was the guy you got for a big bargain. You know, it's Moise Kean. Who would have thought? Keep him for another couple of seasons. Don't let him go. You finally got it right. I know, bro. You got him on a deal, I think for free. They got him for nothing. And you can make a 52 million markup on him. Understand it's exciting. But football is more than markups and making money. You know?
Yes.
They have European football, they have Conference League. I'm sure they get some money from that. I'm sure these American owners do good business. No need to sacrifice your key player. On that note, it's a good segue into Udinese. Are they sold? The Pozzo family are looking to sell. For those of you that don't know, there's the same owners as Watford. Their 39-year reign might be over and American investors might be incoming. Is this the start of a new era or the end of the soul of the club? That's what you get with the American owners, right?
I think that though this would be the start of a new era, because Udinese have been struggling for a while now. Let's just say that. I mean, they were a team that were hopping in and out of Europe back in the days of Di Natale, Alexis Sanchez, right? They have dipped a lot, and we've seen them kind of, you know, their season finishes earlier than everyone else because they're not quite bad enough to actually get relegated. They're not quite good enough to push for Europe. So maybe it's a good thing that they have been sold. Once again, no problems with American owners over here. We have seen perfect examples of American owners and Canadian owners running football clubs very well.
Mm-hmm.
There are many examples in Italy, you know, straight up. It's just how willing are they to put their pride aside and to understand that they are foreign in their own company. I own the company, but this isn't my club.
Exactly.
This is the club of the people.
You're borrowing.
There's a certain... Exactly. The club has its history. I am here for a moment in time. I am not the permanent thing here. Milan is the permanent thing here. Udinese is the permanent thing here. I am just a fucking droplet in the ocean that is Udinese culture.
I think there is currently this this feeling about American ownership because, I mean, you look at
Roma and Milan,
who are the biggest case studies.
Yeah.
Genoa as well, who they had to sell to the Romanian dude. It hasn't gone well for a lot of American owners. I know that Inter now have American owners after they lost their, was it Chinese owners?
Yes. Atalanta have American owners.
Fiorentina,
Parma.
of course. Parma as well.
You know,
I think it's still the start of this Americanized era. What I hope that there is just understanding about clubs, because again we're very close to Milan and we see what happens over there, and it's been nothing short of a fucking disaster. What happened to Maldini and this and that, and same with Roma, the mishandling of De Rossi, so on and so forth. So if they do their research, they come in educated and they come in with respect, then you could do your halftime shows, you could get your VIP section and the celebrity section and whatever. I don't care. You could do your marketing, you could do interviews with speed and this and that. That is all. It's good for Serie A. Let's be honest. You have to do that shit in Serie A to make some money. You don't make money from the stadium. You have to do these things.
Agreed. I mean, marketing there's nothing wrong
exactly
with business, you know.
But handle with care.
Yeah, exactly. Understand where you're going. Respect the piazza, as they say. Also, Bologna are owned by Canadians, and look at that project. It's absolutely brilliant. The two best projects in Italy, potentially, Bologna and Atalanta.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to the Indonesians as well.
Yes, I think we can move on to Lazio and Lecce, right? What the hell happened there, you might be wondering. Lazio absolutely blew it in their own stadium, losing 1-0 to 10-man Lecce and missing out on Europe entirely. So, yes, the goal came in the 43rd minute through Koulibaly, the former Salernitana player. He's the second former Salernitana player to score potentially life-saving goal on the final match day. Because there's Domagoj brother.
Domagoj.
Yeah.
Domi boy.
So yes, this goal came after a Gila mistake. He gave the ball away. The tracking back was a little bit lethargic from Guendouzi and co. And Koulibaly managed to slot it through after Kristovic held up the play well and got an assist over there. Then we saw a red card for Pierotti at the very end of the first half. That it was a second yellow for a light shove on Nuno Tavares. A little bit harsh, but it is what it is, right? And at that point, you could feel in the air they thought they were in trouble, right? They've just scored, but they've just lost a player they are going to have to defend heroically for the rest of the game. And it's going to be a nightmare because they've got the likes of Zaccagni, they've got some very dangerous players in Castellanos, Dia, Isaacson. It's going to be rough, right? So second half starts, Lecce park the bus, they are defending with their lives. Vladimir Falcone.
Bro. We've been saying this for years now about Falcone.
We had the song soundbite. I wish I still had it.
Falcone.
Yeah. What a player, man.
Oh, man. 8 saves.
Yeah.
1.72 goals prevented.
Yeah. Some of the saves were amazing.
1.72.
One save on Castellanos' header, man. It was superb. Yeah, he's so good. And they ended the game, Lecce, with 28% ball possession and an XG of 0.42, when Lazio had an XG of 1.93. So absolutely heroic. Nice to see Ante Rebic getting sent off from the bench as well. Really good contribution to this Lecce side. Ante, not a single goal, I think, scored.
Huge. I don't think so.
I don't think he scored a single goal.
I think there was 1 point he almost scored from half pitch a few games ago. I think against Juve. Funnily enough, he loves a goal against Juve.
Yes. He might have scored against... Yes, he did score against Juve,
did.
bro. Yes, we had the cover art where he was holding the dog.
Yes,
the dog
bro.
was Juve.
Of course he scored. Ante, how can we forget?
Sorry, Ante. Respect.
Sorry.
Big man.
Sorry, Auntie.
But absolutely phenomenal by Lecce against all odds. You know when you're playing FIFA, bro, and you're leaning back and then the opponent scores and you lean forward and you lock in?
Yep.
That's what Lecce did on Matchday 37 this season. Because they got 2 wins against all odds at the end of the season. Just enough to survive.
And on the opposite end of the spectrum, that's what I thought Lazio were doing. Because Lazio needed results to confirm Europe. Keep in mind, a couple of months ago, we were talking about how Lazio are likely candidates for Champions League.
Yeah.
When Juve were falling behind a little bit. But in their in the 5 games prior to this, they beat Genoa, they drew to Parma, they beat Empoli, and this is a Parma and Empoli that were battling relegation, so very tough. They managed to hold Juve and Inter, and then at the end, on the last match of the season, they blow it against Lecce.
Yeah.
But that's what you get when you play a relegation side at this time. It's a complicated fucking affair.
It is.
Tough
it's the hardest game of the season, potentially.
Literally.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's just as well this element, this feeling of complacency on the pitch with Lazio. It's almost like they feel like they did enough at the start of the season, or maybe, I don't know, finishing first in the Europa League group got to their heads or something. But I don't know, man. It's just even the way they track back, their body language at times. It seems a little bit complacent to me at times.
Do you think it's maybe the individuals in their team? They definitely lack X factor.
They lack that leader, man. And in fact, when Pedro comes on, usually that's when the game changes.
Right.
You know, Pedro comes on and he's fuming every time. Every time Pedro comes on, he's angry at the performance in front of him, and he changes the game. Usually, that's how it's been this season. But yes, I think that Zaccagni needs to step up, man. He needs to. He doesn't play badly. Zaccagni doesn't really have many bad games, you know. But it's the fact that he doesn't contribute enough, I feel like. He has to take on that role as a leader right now. Castellanius definitely has to improve and be more prolific. While Boulayedia had his first experience at the top club, he had hot moments and more cold moments, to be honest. But again, similar to Fiorentina, this is a team that is relatively new and that we've seen good flashes, and they have a good foundation over here, I think.
Can I just question the in-game management a little bit
Please.
keep in mind it was Fabrizio Del Rosso that was on the bench for Lazio this time round. The substitutions seem bizarre to me. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing here, but Hisai on for Marisic, Pedro on for Isaacson, Pellegrini on for Tavares, Vecino on for Rovella, Noslin on for Zaccagni. Don't you feel like Dele Bashiru, Arjon Ibrahimovic, Chauna maybe are viable options to bring on in the more offensive phase of the pitch? Like Marusic, okay, Tavares I believe went off injured, did he? Did Tavares go off injured? No, he was just subbed out. Maybe he's not at full fitness to be fair. But Vecino I understand.
So Vecino and Noslin I get, to be honest with you. Primarily because there isn't really anyone on the bench who can do a job up front apart from Noslin. I think, bro, the substitutions, to be honest, aren't that bad, you know.
I think Dele Bashiru could have done something.
But Dele Bashiru against a low block, you know what I mean? He can have a crack.
Arjon Ibrahimovic, what was the point? What was the point?
He's an investment there, I guess. I don't know, man. I think Arjon Ibrahimovic was definitely good enough to get a few minutes, personally, but yeah. It's interesting, bro. I mean, it speaks volumes when it comes to their depth. It's not exactly the best when they have to rely on a 38-year-old.
Absolutely. But I think the thing that stopped Lazio here, I think Baroni did a good job. I think Baroni did the best that he could with the squad that was handed to him. A squad in changing times where Tati isn't used to it yet, Diaz isn't used to it yet, Isaacson isn't used to it yet, neither is Rovella, neither is Guendouzi, neither is Tavares. You know, there's a lot of unfamiliarity in this team, and he actually made them tick. He made them look like a team that's been playing together at times for ages in the Europa League run. And he spent most of, I think Lazio spent, I won't say most, but they spent a lot of time in top four this season. I think he did a good job. I think at the end of the day, the players that you have, it's going to catch up to you. The lack of rotation when you're trying to keep up with those competitions, it's going to catch up to you. Yeah. And I think that's what happened to Lazio over here. Lecce, on the other hand, fighters, man.
Absolutely. And it's a real shame because Lazio towards the end of the season really looked like they were picking up, as you said. You know, they lost 5-0 to Bologna, but after that they drew to Torino, and that's where their rampage really kind of started. Not their rampage, but their mini kind of redemption, where they said, you know what, man, against the top teams, we're going to change things up. They beat Atalanta. This is something I forgot. They actually beat Atalanta 1-0. And then they drew to Roma when Roma were on that really good run. They beat Genoa, drew to Parma, beat Empoli, drew to Juve, drew to Inter. And then all they had to do was draw against Lecce, right? It would have been at 66. Yes, a draw would have been enough.
Just a draw.
Draw against Lecce. Don't lose to Lecce. And they bottled it. And I mean, sometimes, man, these things you can't help but feel like they are deeply rooted in the club.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you have Spurs with the Butler kind of reputation, and in Italy, if anyone had to have that reputation, unfortunately, it would be Lazio. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, no, it's true though. And there was a point where it was Napoli, where they were getting so close and then losing it on the last day to Juve when they were ahead for the majority. With Higuain, Koulibaly, so on and so forth.
One more thing before we move on. This was Gallo's last game for Lecce. He got a hero's reception, of course. Probably onto better things. He's really improved, Gallo. I think the last 2 years he's been good.
He's really stepped up as well.
Interesting to see him taking off his shirt and throwing it. Then he took off his pants and threw it, you know, the Italian thing. So he was just there in his underwear. And the underwear were Uomo, €2.50.
Uomo for men, no?
What a guy.
Uomo for men. If they're comfortable, they're comfortable. But I used to play in Uomo as well.
They don't tear.
They don't tear.
Calvin
Klein, I'm calling you out. Calvin Klein is a disaster. Bro. They tear so much. Bro, authentic apparel, or whatever it's called. And Uomo
Time forever.
Timeless,
Forever.
man.
Yes,
timeless.
yes. Absolutely immortal.
And next are good.
Next aren't as good. They're not
as
in GOAT
good.
tier.
They can lose the material and it
Especially
ends
at
up
the-
see-through and
the
it tears
bottom,
a bit
exactly,
at the coochie area.
Exactly. The coochie.
The cooch, I wanted to say, but I ended up telling people essentially that
Absolutely.
I've got a
So,
coochie.
Well done Lecce, well done Gallo. Fantastic result, fantastic underwear.
And Lazio, better. Sorry. Next up, Parma survived, obviously. They didn't have to beat Atalanta. They didn't have to go out there and
They were
and
just
beat
feeling
them
it,
away
at
from
that
home.
point.
But they came back from 2 goals down and they won 3-2, which is a great showcase of what this Parma team are capable of. And I always say it, I think this Parma team, and we're discussing Kivu a bit before this, and I said they could find a manager that brings even more out of this team, because I think they're really, really talented, and I think they've got something, man, this Parma team. I think they can do really, really well, and strive.
They have talent, man.
They can strive with the team that they have to finish where Como finished, to fight for that 10th spot. But in this game, Maldini rose from the dead. Now that our Fanta League is finished, as Jake said. 32nd minute, Maldini slides in like an animal, to convert Bellanova's cross to give Atalanta the lead. And just 1 minute later, he curled a strike into the far corner to make it 2-0. What happened at halftime? Kivu, or whoever was on the touchline instead of him, because Kivu was one of the ones that was suspended.
It was Antonio Gagliardi. Makes great suits.
Fantastic suits and fantastic wallets. We're such influencers today. At halftime, Gagliardi launched his latest fantastic range. It's a 2-piece. They have an Ondrejka and a Hainut. Both brought on. 49th minute, Hainut scores. He rifled in a rocket into the top corner after Pellegrino's pass. It was good link-up play, and then he just fucking... He couldn't have hit it harder.
One of those where you shout, yeet!
Exactly. 71st minute, some brilliant hold-up play by Bonny. It's where he excels. Really, really good work by Bonny. And he played through Ondrejka, who finished so cleanly. Ondrejka has really good finishing. He has great link-up play. He understands. He's one step ahead, Ondrejka. Intelligent, good coup for the bench for some of these teams, man.
Yeah.
Lazio.
And he's only 22 years old. Swedish.
We'll ask some of our patrons about him. They understand some Swedish ball. Carnesecchi then denied Ondrejka in a 1-1 on a Parma counter. And then in the 91st minute, Ondrejka won it for Parma, scoring off a Bernabé through ball. His strike was deflected and it went into Carnesecchi's near post. Tried to stick out a leg, it wasn't good enough. Against the top 9 teams in Serie A this season, so the top 9 teams, because let's be real, bro. Napoli, Inter, Atalanta, Juve, Roma, Fiorentina, Lazio, Milan, Bologna are the new. There's no longer the top 7; it's the top 9 at this point, unless we take Milan out of the equation.
The 7 sisters. Now it's what?
The 9 nutters.
The 9 nutters. The 9 nonces.
The 9 nonces. So against those top 9 teams, Parma have amassed a total of 5 wins, 7 draws, and just 6 losses against the top teams. They're undefeated against Fiorentina, where they have 2 draws, undefeated against Juve, where they have a win and a draw, against Lazio, where they have a win and a draw, and against Bologna, where they have a win and a draw. If this team went down, it would have been
a disaster.
They did not deserve to be anywhere near that. I'm glad they survived. Their team is very coachable with the right man. Like I said, they can push. They showed Pecchia faith. They started well. Sacked him a bit late, went for Kivu, who's not very proven. I think Kivu did a decent job with them. Yeah. I think if they get someone in the summer that has a bit of Serie A experience, or one of these young up-and-comers, man, that they can do a really good job next season. And I think they could make some good money. Yes. Unless they hang on to their key pieces.
They have a good project, because I feel like they're replicating on a smaller scale what Atalanta are doing. Right? They buy young talent, they develop, they
Pellegrino,
have their
Bonny.
system. Exactly, yes. I think that it's been a good season by Kivu. he came in halfway through. It was a little bit complicated. He completely stopped the leaky defense problem that we thought was going to doom Parma. They were looking a bit like Crotone of seasons before, where they score goals. It's true, but they concede way too many. I enjoyed what Kivu did this season. I thought that he has a good defensive foundation to his team, and the attacking improvisation from the players and the link-up play demonstrated was also very good. He's a young manager. I think it's his first gig in the top flight, so I would say give him another shot. He got you survival, goal achieved. He didn't even have a full pre-season, took the team from halfway through the season. I'm excited to see what he can do next year.
It would be good. It would be interesting and exciting to have him have a full pre-season at Parma and to implement, because like you said, he steadied the ship quite heavily. We know how free-flowing Parma are going forward, like they were under Pecchia. But the thing is, they were conceding 2 goals a game. Kivu steadied that ship. They didn't really lose that flowiness. I think at times, perhaps, we saw certain key players like Dennis Mann having a tough spell. But they've got decent depth.
They do, man.
They've got. I'm going to take that from decent and go. They've got very good depth.
At their level, it's true.
At their level. Because some of the players that were replacing Dennis Mann, like over
Haj
here...
Mohammed scored an important winner for them at one point.
Like here, they played a 3-1-4-2 formation with Pellegrino and Boni up front, with Del Prato and Valeri wide. Keita, by the way, I really enjoy Keita. I think he's really good.
That's one of the players the previous manager wasn't playing, Pecchia.
There you go. But that's what we think of Parma. Thus far, it's the end of the fucking season.
Shout out to Matthias, who had given us information on Andrejka. I can't access it right now because on my iPad, but he gave us a whole rundown on him.
Yes, shout out Matthias. Retegui, of course, capocannoniere and best striker. Who would have thought when they signed him last minute after during pre-season, Scamacca broke everything. Interesting to see what's going to happen with Scamacca next season. Is it going to be him and Retegui up front together? Under what manager? A lot more discussion over there to come. A huge thing is that Gasperini's exit is seeming more and more likely, and it's a concrete possibility. Roma and Milan both seemingly interested, probably with a bunch of other clubs around the world. Apparently even English clubs are looking at him, Spurs notably. Is this the end of an era, or is the club so well run that there's nothing to worry about when they bring in a new manager? Of course there will be growing pains, but the project is so fucking strong and they're so well run as a club that they can still keep this going. Because they entered the Seven Sisters with Gasperini.
Yes. It's an interesting question, bro, and it's something that keeps me up at night. It's because I think that from a business standpoint, they operate beautifully, and from a sporting standpoint, when they have a lot of success. But none of this would actually matter if Gasperini wasn't doing what he was doing. If the results weren't there. The results help everything tick, right? I think as it stands right now, they've built up enough kind of money in the bank and enough international recognition, and they have a reputation, in Europe now, where they have a little bit of room for error. They can get it wrong, I think, to begin with. There's not this crazy pressure to pick up from where Gasperini left off, almost like what we saw with Bologna post Motta. It was like we only had one season with the success. Are we guaranteed another one? There was a lot of pressure in Italiano to actually do something. With Gasperini, I feel like if they don't get it right, it's not going to be the end of the world for the club financially and pull-wise and all that. And the fans won't be as upset,
That's a good point, huh? The fact that they've got seasons under their belt, the fact that they've done this and they've been in the Champions League and they competed there. I think they got quite far once as well. I think they make quarters or semis.
Oh, they got eliminated in a bullshit way against PSG when Ilicic became unavailable halfway through the season. Had he been there, they would have done way better. Let's just say that before I say something super sensational.
I think I agree with you over there. I think, of course, care is to be taken when getting their new manager. Gasperini has failed in other places. He failed at Inter, but he really worked at Atalanta for some reason, probably because they showed faith in him. He had worked hand in hand with the sporting director of the club. It's one of those things that we're gonna have to wait and see. Who are they gonna bring in, and what the fuck are they gonna do? Again, many managers available. I'm not saying they should go for a Gilardino of sorts. I think someone like Pioli might suit an Atalanta team, but they'd have to convince him to leave Saudi.
I mean, he lost.
They hate him, they hate him.
He lost the last game. It was apparently a bad loss, and he called the season a failure, especially in his
They came like fourth or something. Al Nassr, quite a disaster.
But very exciting, very exciting.
Well, less speculation onto shit we know, brother. The next game is yours, and just so you know, to export this video, it's gonna take you a while because we're 1 hour 55 in.
Oh shit!
And we've got, I believe you have how many games left to cover?
I have one.
You have one? Are you sure?
Yeah,
I think you have two.
Empoli, Verona. That's it.
But you don't have Milan, and then?
No.
Yes, you do.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I straight up didn't prep
We'll do it. We'll freestyle.
Don't worry. I've got Bologna, Genoa. Now we can speed.
To be honest,
up
those two games are kind of irrelevant, right? The Milan game. We'll just.
But a lot to talk about with Milan.
This one's a big one, bro. It's Empoli against Hellas Verona. The score was 2-1.
The game that sent Empoli down to Serie B.
Exactly, yes. At the start of the game, Ciacciua was handed the Freccia Rossa Speed Award, by the way. At least it wasn't the fucking Philadelphia Cheese Spread Speed Award. It was the Freccia Rossa one this time. Yes, for being fast. Imagine they told him, here you are, congratulations, you're fast.
You're so fast. Faster than Theo.
Yes.
Faster than all these guys.
So Hellas Verona opened the scoring nice and early thanks to a long throw that was flicked by Sar and Duda and smashed home by Serdar.
They flicked his Duda.
They flicked his Duda and he scored Serdar 1-0. And then Empoli eventually responded late in the first half. It was Fazzini who followed up on a parried header to make it 1-1. And then eventually Bradaric in the second half scored. He powered home a header from Ciacciua, fastest man in the world, cross to make it 2-1, and Hellas Verona took the lead, and Empoli struggled to equalize, quite frankly, and they didn't manage. Very good performances by the individuals at Hellas. I thought this game, Duda was very good. Serdar was great. I thought that they really kind of reaped the rewards of sticking with their man, right? Without panicking and potentially destroying everything. I was of the opinion that Zanetti had to go simply because that massive loss halfway through the season against Empoli. It was against Empoli, if you remember. So this was revenge in the purest form.
And I think we criticize Zanetti a lot for Verona's goals conceded. And in fact, Verona this season, like we didn't essentially criticize him for nothing or unfairly. They conceded 66 goals. The only team that conceded more than them came in dead last in Monza.
69.
I mean, there was a lot of work to be done, but I feel like Zanetti has experienced relegation battles thoroughly throughout his career, and he's often come out on the good side of them, and he's confirmed survival for one or two teams at this point.
Exactly.
This was a full season we saw him. We saw him have a chip on his shoulder against Empoli as well. He was there, and I believe he got sacked.
Yes, he had the whole thing with Thomas Henry, no?
With Thomas Henry, that was at... Thomas Henry...
Or was it not?
Was it...
Venezia. It was against... No.
At Venezia.
Yes,
with Thomas Henry, I believe. But we've seen him at these sides. We've seen him get sacked. We saw him have a full season over here. And to be fair, they ended up getting the better out of these other relegation sides. And they finished. I mean, their gap from Empoli was 6 points.
Yeah.
Quite convincing.
Yeah. The season started with Zanetti celebrating like a madman in a 3-0 win over Napoli, and ended with Zanetti celebrating like a madman, celebrating survival, right? A successful season for Hellas Verona, to which we should say congratulations, Ben.
Yeah, Ben.
He often tells us that we shit on Hellas Verona a bit too much.
That's probably right.
He's probably right, yes. I mean, they're a team with a beautiful history, right? But we have a soft spot for Chievo.
Yes, we have a soft spot for Chievo. That's something. But mainly, as a club with so much history, I hate seeing them let go of so much talent, which I understand is needed to keep a business running and this whole philosophy. But at least do good business, because I haven't seen them get much money from all their big departures. You know, so I think they struggle over there, but they're doing a good job fighting for their lives every season and surviving.
And surviving against all odds, right? It's a team that has international players at the end of the day, right? They have Duda and Suslov, who represent their country at every European tournament.
Davidovic as well.
Exactly. And also they have an absolute crack of a defender in Coppola this season. So we'll see how they handle that. I would like to see a little bit more positive management on behalf of Hellas Verona. On the other hand, you have Empoli, who have been almost abandoned as a team. They built a team through loan players, through young players, and we said at the start of the season that we predicted they would go down. As it stands right now, all the players are going back, and I don't even think they have any forwards that they actually own. It's quite a bad situation for them. They had a solid base with Ismaili, Viti, and Gogliocice, but at the end of the day, it was not enough for them.
Empoli had such a good start.
It's true.
Such a good start to the season.
The Coppa Italia
and they had a good Coppa Italia run. I mean, they had for half of the season one of the best defenses in the league. We've seen this from Empoli before. We've seen Empoli have a great, like under D'Aversa. No, this is D'Aversa. Under, what manager was it at Empoli? Great opening 4 months. And then basically they had done most of the work in the first half of the season. And then they essentially drew or lost every remaining match. But they had essentially done enough. If you can find out the manager for me,
yes,
I would love you, because I have such a clear...
Davide Nicola.
No.
Andrea Azzoli.
Or Zanetti.
So when are you saying...
This season they came up to Serie A, I believe.
Andrea Azzoli, that was, bro. That was with Andrea Azzoli.
I think Andrea Azzoli, they had a really good start as well then, and then they flopped basically. But you look at that, I mean, Matchday 2, they beat Roma. On the third Matchday, they held Bologna. Then they held Juventus, you know? And they just weren't conceding many goals. They knocked Juve out of the... the Coppa Italia, and they've just completely free-fallen. And the controversial thing is, while they were free-falling, they just held on to D'Aversa.
Yeah.
And I think that was a choice. It's worked out for some, but we saw 2 relegated teams perhaps held on to their managers for a bit too long.
Yeah. That's a good point, bro. I think it all went downhill for Empoli when Ismaili got injured. They started losing and they lost all their confidence. And then Fazzini got injured as well. The second he would find his form, he'd get injured, and we kind of put him off a bit. And he burst into life now at the end of the season, but there weren't enough games left. And I think confidence-wise, they were... Confidence and consistency, because, you know, Sebastiano Esposito is a fantastic talent, but he's inconsistent because he's young. He hasn't been at this level for long enough. Colombo, same thing, you know. It was just not enough for them, I think. Investment-wise as well, they needed more love. Absolutely.
Yeah. Young team. It's a shame to see a young team struggle. But you need leaders and you need Serie A experience, especially you're going to be in a relegation scrap. You can't go out there with kids. We see this in Serie C taking place with Milan Futuro getting relegated because they've got street-smart players, the other teams, their opponents that know the league. So U Maltese say meta niġu għassi u għanno.
When we come to the yes and the no.
The yes and the no, basically the crucial moment. It's the experienced ones that step up. But I'm really excited to see what's going to come of Fazzini, what's going to come of Esposito, and what's going to come of Colombo. Colombo will probably be, I can almost guarantee he'll be loaned out somewhere else next year, that either a newly promoted team or a Hellas Verona of sorts. Otherwise, Fazzini, I know Lazio, admire him.
Ismaili can do a gig in Serie A.
Ismaili
even
for
Viti.
sure.
I think that backline, it's deployable, funnily enough. And you know what sucks as well for Empoli, man? They had Pellegrini who burst into form and did his ACL. Let's not forget that. They were ravaged by injuries, to be fair.
Absolutely.
Their squad was not ready enough, and and on top of all that, they lost too many players.
100%. So Bakken was out for a really long time as well. It's a shame. Yes. Curious to see what they do in Serie B, because so many loaned players.
Yeah. I think we should jump to 2 talking points instead of covering 2 matches. I think we should talk about Genoa's new kid on the block, homegrown, debuting away from home and making the headlines over there. And I think we should also talk about the protests with Milan a little bit.
Antare a little bit.
Yeah.
A real remember the name performance by Venturino. Born in 2006, he scored 2 goals in his full debut for Genoa in a game that they beat Bologna 3-1. But it was all about this guy. It was all about Venturino. He scored his opening goal. He dribbled past fucking 3 players. Yeah. He outmuscled Lukumi when he was off balance, and he finished so cleanly. At 18 years old,
couldn't believe it, huh?
Really fucking good ball control for his age. Really good ball control.
Really good. He was impressive, man, and I didn't think Genoa had a talent like that, like such a good offensive
and homegrown, homegrown. You see his face when he scores.
It's
how does
adorable.
Something make me so happy and break my heart at the same time?
That's deep. We'll ask Simi.
Thank you. But there isn't too much to add.
No,
to that
that's
because
it.
There's a lot to be seen. But 18 years old. I'm keen next time the under 21s or the under 18s play. I'd be keen to have a look at him playing against, to see how much better he is than players his age. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Comes up against Lamine Yamal.
Yes, this was his first start, and boy, oh boy, did he deliver. If you look at his Primavera stats, he's not crazy. 2 goals and 5 assists in 7 starts, which is quite good, to be fair. But it's not Camarda, you know.
It's not Camarda or Liberali.
Camarda, Cutrone and Colombo have all broken records for Milan's Primavera.
Literally.
Just to put things into perspective. Okay, that's that. And this game was
insignificant.
Yes. And it ended actually 3-1.
Bologna.
And Orsolini scored a fucking ferocious goal.
I just want to make a note on Bologna, if you don't mind, real quick. They finished 9th. How disappointing. Shut up. Because I'll tell you why. Not only did they win the Coppa Italia, so literally why even try to finish higher up? It's silly. In fact, you see the team they went out with, it's honestly not that bad. But they don't care. They made Europa League. Why are they going to try and make Europa League again? It's going to get them Champions League. If they make it twice, it's bullshit. And secondly, keep in mind that next season, Italiano would have been there for a year.
Yes.
Italiano was finding his feet for half the season. Bologna didn't start until fucking December playing well. And then Doi came out of his shell and this and that. And Ferguson returned from injury and all of that, basically. So they needed half a season to find their feet. And look what they managed to do in half a season.
Yeah.
The fact that they finished 9th is insignificant. They're in the Europa League. And next season, Italiano will know the team even more. He'll have a bit of a budget to play around with because they made Europa League.
If he's there.
If he's there, because he's another one. Milan want him.
When the top teams let go of their coaches or move on from their coaches, suddenly these teams, their coaches become fucking total question marks, even if they're committed to the task completely. Yeah. And when it comes to Milan, there were more protests than anything else. There was a nice human protest where the fans formed Get Out.
Go home.
Go home, exactly, thank you. Yes, the Curva walked out. They basically said, if you are a Milan fan, leave the stadium right now, 20 minutes in. If you're a tourist, stay, they said. That would have felt really weird because I would have stayed. I would have been like, I paid.
There are 150 Swedish people or Danish people, I believe. They made so much noise. It's true, there was a TikTok.
Yeah.
But not only that, but before the game, around 3,000 to 5,000 Milan
5,000,
fans.
I heard.
5,000.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Protesting against Cardinale. Devi vendere.
Just calling him a son of a bitch, like outside, whoever he is.
Devi.
Cardinale, Devi.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
Devi.
Duolingo,
Devi, yeah.
I haven't done it yet today.
That's why. Interesting, Conceição wasn't there, of course. Theo and Leao weren't given any minutes. I felt a little bit kind of shit about that because, like, there's a chance that they'll be sold, and to not give them that last showing at San Siro after what they've done for you is a little bit
cruel.
It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But then at the end of the day, I mean, give them some time. Who's going to applaud them? The 150 Danish supporters that were over there.
This wasn't. This was. You watch it and it's like you're watching the streets of Malta during COVID. it gave me that feeling, bro.
Clean.
No, just a sad sight to see the San Siro on the last game of the season like that. And what did you make of Reinders really walking around with his kid for a bit too long?
I mean, what can I say, man?
Let's just say, man, that Theo. So, firstly, who removed their fucking Milan from their bio? Leao and who else?
And someone else.
Theo?
I forgot who it was. Maybe Theo. I'm not sure, though.
Leao and Theo did that, apparently. Pulisic doesn't want to apparently renew now. Apparently, he's closer to leaving than he is renewing. Reinders is highly sought after by City. And it's United really want Manyan. It's a fucking... if we thought there was a lot of change last year, and this was all brought about by the owners, Cardinale, devo vendere vattene, bro. I don't know how much clearer it could be. Like he says, then Forlani, the genius, he said, Milan don't need to, we never need to sell. They sold Tonali. I can guarantee you right now that they're gonna sell Reinders.
Yes, I have a feeling. I mean, we've seen how they operate. I wonder how bad it's going to be because Reinders is one of the happy ones, funnily enough. He's always spoken very positively and how it's a dream to represent the club and how comfortable he feels in Milan.
Signed the contract.
Exactly. When it comes to the others, they're not as happy. So what's going to happen? You're going to keep the unhappy ones and sell the happy one? Mm-hmm. What's this? Also, I feel like there is time to repair all this. You know, I mean, the sporting director, granted, it has to be seen how much power they're going to give him because they still said he has to report to Forlani for Forlani to fucking approve everything like Forlani knows anything. I'm sorry about the sport.
Forlani's an idiot. He's an idiot. He's a walking clown.
When it comes to business, one of the best. When it comes to football, I'm sorry.
So go work at fucking Deloitte, man, if you're good at business. Allah, don't come to Milan and try.
I don't like how arrogant he is, how he talks to the fans.
I'm still here.
Literally.
Fuck off.
There was you saw what Ed posted on the chat.
I don't know.
It was something.
So many were posted.
It was hilarious, man. It was. I'm not even sure I can say it on the podcast, to be honest with you. I'll check it out. I'll filter it to see, and then I'll let you know. But in the meantime, I don't know, man. It's the situation is salvageable. That's the thing. All you have to do, and all this could have been avoided from the beginning if you invest in the coach, man. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter who you sign as players if you don't have a good coach. That's the important thing, man.
Because they cheaped out on they cheaped out on the coaches, and they had the nerve to choose Fonseca and tell Milan fans we're gonna fight for the league this year. That shows arrogance and it shows ignorance, to be honest. And what more would you expect from Zlatan Ibrahimovic as a fucking advisor for Milan? To be completely honest, man. there were the Maldini protests, which were quite cool. People holding up Maldini shirts and getting kicked out of the stadium, which is ridiculous. I was going to make a point. Yes, Ilya Tare. Tare is actually a good option for Milan. He did great things at Lazio, despite a super, super rigid budget, and working for a guy that is notorious for being tough to work with.
Because he just falls asleep during meetings.
Exactly. Lotito for those that don't know.
He is very controlling, Lotito, and he's very critical and arrogant, quite frankly. It makes him very difficult to work with, absolutely. And apart from that, he's on the older side. It must be frustrating to deal with.
But the Tare, and then they clearly Milan, now that they have their sporting director, we can start to see decisions being made. We already know there's interest in Caviglia, there's interest in Lucca, there's interest in Comuzzo, there's interest in Ricci. Amazing. We need those guys and the current players. Milan need those guys and the current players. A few sacrifices could be done. Tomori, for example, at most out of the key players. But again, choose the manager first before you make any decisions. If you're going to play a 4 at the back, you can let Theo go, for example. I know it's not ideal, but you can cash in on Theo. But you're not going to cash in on bloody Reinders, who was the best player this year. But my point is now, with Tare, Milan actually have a professional vision. The vision of an expert of his field who spent years at Lazio doing what he does. He's the guy that brought in Simone Inzaghi. He launched him, you know. So there's a lot of positive opportunity here with Tare. Now we see what coach they bring in. It is salvageable, like you said. Even though at the moment it looks like the club is about to fucking collapse.
I think the priority should be, let's get back into top 4. Let's get back in the Champions League. And if you want to do that pretty much with a guarantee,
say it.
You have to go for Conte or Allegri.
I agree.
That's it.
I agree.
And there's no fucking point in even talking about Palladino or De Zerbi. I know he just renewed, but the management isn't willing to give these people time. It's a do or die situation. They're extremely cutthroat. So go for the company men. Go for the people who have done this before, man. Go and just give them the tools, and trust me, you'll have all your green lines and your graphs and everywhere you fucking want. This joke is really bad. I don't know if I should read it.
Let me see it.
You know, you understand?
No, don't say that. No.
If the patrons want to know, you can ask and I'll DM it to you.
Exactly. I know. there's so much.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of. Like I can point at 3 things that could get us cancelled over there. We've just been cancelled by the entire nation of Turkey, man.
Exactly. We're calling Hakan's mom a bitch.
Exactly. And can I just say something like? The whole joke is literally the song Cialanoglu figlio di puttana. It's a play on that joke.
On
that chant. Simple as that. On that chant. It's a play on that chant.
I got death threats. I got fucking rape threats. I swear to
God. We swear.
People saying you don't come to Turkey, you don't talk to us like that.
People tagging Cialanoglu. You won't be laughing when Cialanoglu sees this.
One guy tagged the Turkish military. He tagged the Turkish police force. He took it really badly, man.
1565. I think that's
1565.
I think that's that. For this episode. Bit of a longer one because the season just ended.
We have lots of plans, guys. We have tops and flops and unsung heroes. We have reacting to our predictions, Serie B playoffs. We have, I don't know if we should announce.
Yes, we've got ourselves a producer. It's confirmed. So you'll see later on in June that our content is going to be looking very different. Yes. We hope, everything goes well. We chose a really cool guy.
He's a legend. I'm very excited. You're going to love him.
Yeah.
And he offers a different dynamic because he's technically a United fan. And he's going to be learning about Serie A with us as we go along. So it's going to be an interesting thing where we can kind of teach him on the show and let him in on the inside jokes, etc., etc.
We're his university voluntary work thing to take on for communications. It's cool that we can do that and we can offer that to anyone that wants like to create content for us. The door is still very much open for different roles, of course. Hit us up if we like you. You've got a really good opportunity that we could do something together.
I like you.
But that's it for this episode. It's always so weird. Like the season ended, bro.
I know, it's
and
done,
this was season 4, and after we do the tops and flops and all that, and after when we start talking about next season, it's gonna be season 5.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
Time.
I love you all so much, especially those that have been there from the start.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your support.
And shout out to our haters.
Shout out. It's been a great season. We enjoyed doing the whole every single team, every single match, every single week. We look forward to next season. But yes, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Tops, flops, unsung hero, and also each of our Serie A teams of the season.
Yes.
See y'all.
And the Revolut payment of €5.
Yes, right now.
Yeah.
Ciao, guys.
If you like Serie A or have ever liked it in the past, it's a good opportunity for you to listen once a week and you'll get filled in.
In the football weekend, that's like the main dish. But then a few days later, you drop your episode and that's like the dessert. And the dessert is just perfect.
It's good, the cake.
It makes it feel like we're all sitting in a room together, just BSing with each other.
The atmosphere is fantastic.
I promise nobody will ask you to send boob pics.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I love how you go into so much detail and show so much passion towards each and every team. Literally, no team is left undiscussed.
When I listen to you, it's like I'm talking to you in a pub. It's like I'm chatting to a friend and you're chatting to me.